Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's Inworld Review. This is the show where we bring you news and discussion about the metaverse. And for those of you who don't know, the metaverse, I'm so sorry, is a world of immersive spaces where you can collaborate, create, communicate, hang out with your friends, and just participate. It's a lot more than VR, inverted commas. And well, I'm not going to start an argument with Mira about surround vision, so we'll just carry on. We've got a great conversation, I suspect, coming up today. Yeah, those of you are wondering why we're 15 minutes late going on air. Well, let's just say we've been blabbering away off stage.
Yes, we have.
And sort of just slipped a little bit, I think is the word. And in fact, I was on the phone to somebody else for about 3/4 of an hour before the show. It's meant to be a 5-minute catch-up to prep me for the show, and ended up well, anyway, we are full of it today. We definitely are. I can tell you that because I've been witness to the last hour's conversation or so. Right. Anyway, it is the 18th of September of the grand old year 2016. Haven't got that wrong yet, thank goodness. Couple of weeks to go before the end of the month. The weekend at the end of the month, of course, is the start of Avatar Fest. That is an annual event celebrating social lifestyle things happening on Open Simulator and Hypergrid. And it has its own grid set up for the occasion. And if we're lucky, we might be able to track down somebody to come and talk to us about it next week, which will basically be the last chance. Traditionally, nobody there seems to want to do voice. And the actual organizer, a wonderful chap called Handheld, has unfortunately fallen ill. So the Avatar Fest is going ahead. There are plenty of people involved rapidly building stuff, and other people have actually taken over his coordinating role, as it were. So that will be coming up at the end of the month. 30th of September is the start date of that. And I think the main thing is about 3 days, although it'll probably continue on. Also, on our announcements, we've told you every week for the last 2 weeks, but should mention it again. The Open Sim Community Conference for 2016 will be happening on the 10th and 11th of December. And if you go to opensimulator.org, conference.opensimulator.org, you will find all the stuff that's posted so far, including, it went out last week, the call for proposals, which you can fill in if you'd like to come to that conference and make a presentation or be part of a panel or whatever. Just sort of go to the form, state your interest. If the form isn't easy to fill in, just have some notes in the notes bit or something. But do get in touch and let us know what you want to do or what you can do and what you like to do, and we'll be not just me, a whole team of people will be go sifting through all those submissions in due course. Right, so that's the current affairs bit sorted. Let me introduce you to who's with us this week. Needless to say, on my left is my regular co-host, Maria Korolev from Hypergrid Business. So welcome, Maria.
Well, thanks, Mel. Great to be here.
And to her left, no, to her right and your left. Oh, I never get this stuff right, do I? We have our dev commentator, I'm going to call him, but he also multitasks running all the cameras in our studio here. So double duty there for James Atloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, thank you so much, Mel. I enjoy this every week.
Now, one of the big things, we weren't first off with it last week, but Maria posted it just under 2 weeks ago. A big thing that was getting us all very excited last week was the announcement by the people at Moses about moves forward with bringing OpenSim and possibly ultimately the Hypergrid to the web. And of course, we've been getting very excited about all aspects of this. And whilst we were talking last week, of course, we did go into a bit of the background of that, including the fact that a great amount of the code for the Halcyon side of that project was contributed and done, I think is the word, in conjunction with the open similar grid called Inworlds. Now, Inworlds It's not on the hypergrid, but it is one of the earliest Open Sim grids. And very early on, they, I think the phrases took charge of their own code to make it work better, and subsequently haven't retained connectivity in full with the Open Sim core. But I am not the person to talk about that, because the person that is sitting right here beside me. She is person in charge, CEO, whatever, of Inworlds, and will know all about the Halcyon code and everything else. And that's Elenia Llewellyn. So welcome,
Let's go with
Elenia.
Ellie. Ellie
Oh,
is good. Ellie, I like Ellie. So,
I,
we're
I,
friends.
I actually like Elenia. It sounds nice. I want to cuddle you.
Oh, I feel like a teddy bear now. Yay.
But I will call you Ellie, because I will be less likely to get into a tongue twist. So welcome,
See?
Ellie Llewellyn. See, and I can pronounce Llewellyn. Yes.
That's your British background.
Yeah, some people can't, can they?
They do have issues with it, yes.
I mean, 2 L's.
It's Welsh.
Yeah, tell me about the 2 L's. I know all about the 2 L's.
Welsh. It's Welsh.
That's
it's
right.
Welsh. In origin.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, great to have you here. And as usual, we'll be bringing you some hypergrid news first, and then moving on to developer news and more general sort of VR news, but not before we've probably had a quite long and engaging conversation with Ellie here. We've already started this conversation offline and gone in so many directions. I've got to do a sort of rewind the engine, so to speak, to get back to the start. But let's just start actually by having a quick update on Inworld's the grid itself. I know, for example, we have Relay for Life in Inworlds, which is like they're obviously huge in Second Life, but they're pretty big in Inworlds too. So that's going on at the moment, I believe, and very successfully.
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned earlier, I have been talking to Old Soul the other day, and he made mention to me that they had surpassed their records from last year for RFL donations. They've actually have more Sims this year, as a matter of fact, too, that they're using. And the participation has just been crazy. My Facebook is just flooded with RFL of Inworld stuff. It's really just been great to see. I so love the RFL, and one of I think my favorite things that I saw that was done, it was really touching. It sort of brought me to tears for a minute, because it's a statue that one of our residents made, and it's the patient laying down and 2 caregivers on either side, and it was all about hope. So it was really, really touching, and just absolutely beautiful. I thought the whole thing just sort of touched right on the whole concept of RFL and why we do it.
Sure. Well, for those that don't know, RFL is Relay for Life. It's the native of the American Cancer Association, and it's always been very big in Second Life. Do they follow the same model? Do they have like multiple Sims and then a track that people relay on? And so it's modeled very much on the, I suppose, the well-worn method that they introduced first in Second Life.
Yeah, just on a smaller scale over in Inworlds. I think over in Second Life, I think they have something like 20 Sims or something, whereas over by us, they have, I think, 8 that they're running. Right. I could be wrong on that, though. So definitely smaller scale.
It's the same principle. People come along and they run on the track, sponsored or whatever, and they have trackside.
Yeah, and we actually we do have some of them using the in-shape concept, too, where they're actually on their treadmill at home using it.
That is so cool.
Now that is great. Because do you still have the app? I think it's an app on an iPad or something where you connect and it does that treading for you.
Yes.
Now that is a story that could be picked up by mainstream media. Have you been doing any kind of PR to get some earned media on that?
No, actually, that's sort of out of my depth as far as messing with that kind of stuff. But we did the video where I don't know if I think you guys saw it, but that was like a year ago, the last RFL, where David did it when he released it, and he was running around on the track for an hour, and the tinies were running circles around him on the track because they could.
Because they could. I love it.
Because they could. Because they're the tinies. That's what they do. So what we would like to see is we'd like to see more picking up of it as far as actually using it. So I sort of pushed it a little bit earlier this year. I'm I'm thinking of maybe sort of going into a more larger advertising campaign with it, because I sort of want to hit the joggers, especially now that winter's coming up north, and getting them to do their treadmill inside, and that's a great way to do it because they can use our regions that have it all connected in.
It reminds me because obviously in our VR inverted commas part of this podcast we cover as much innovation and duplication half the time of stuff happening, with hardware, and there are there's these circular treadmills, but there's also the exercise bikes where you can strap your pad on in front, and of course it occurs to me you actually have with that one app you have this in place already. You have something that is, an augmented reality, almost VR. It's something you can do for real, with your physical body in the real world, and enjoy it by seeing yourself doing it virtually. Advertising that facility itself just sort of slots in very nicely to some of the VR advertising that's going on now. They go berserk just advertising meditation apps because that's one of the limited things of content they seem to get right at the moment.
Right, that's one of the things I want to work on IDI too. I want to get some yoga going. Thinking of meditation.
Yeah, that's always Well, it depends how it's done. In Second Life, I went to a few of those, and there'd be a campfire and cushions, and it would be, okay. But then you would get more of what I would call more advanced stuff, where they set up audio-visual environments to actually trigger meditation and stuff like that, which I thought was the perfect use of using the virtual environment for that, because you could conjure up audio-visual sights and sounds to aid meditation, which of course you could never recreate if you're just lying on your mat on the floor at home kind of thing. So, it was an example of where, meditation is meditation, but you put yourself in an enhanced environment to, make it better meditation, I guess.
Right?
The only way.
Well, it forces you to focus, basically, is what it does.
Yeah, exactly. It's the mantra, isn't it?
Yes.
Instead of focusing on a tantric poster on your wall, you can focus on a moving environment, which is designed to create a similar sort of effect. So it's all great stuff. I'm going to segue immediately here, because one of the things we were talking about, actually, one of the later things we were talking about before we came on air, was advertising.
Yes.
And this may sound, he's going to talk about advertising. Has he commercialized himself? This is not quite the point, because I gave an example. I'm sure I've given it on here lots of times, so I won't repeat it. But the idea that you have commercial projects, you have non-profit projects, you have hobbyists, you have all sorts of things, certainly on the hypergrid and indeed on Open Sim non-connected regions. Yet, we're at a crucial point with Open Simulator, and we'll come to some of the getting on the web stuff in a bit, where we need to up the ante before we get left behind. I mean, people in Second Life are, I think, often very conservative. They're reluctant to move on because they may have pioneered at the start, but they're now stuck with their security issues and their investment issues. Out here in Open Sim, there is a lot more variety. There's no grid, actually, except for yours. I mean, you're not the size of Second Life, but you're probably the biggest Open Simulator grid. Constantly. You initially attracted, didn't you? I should say that much more the creative types. You were able to offer more prims, and you allowed people to build and do arty things that they would have been price prohibitive, really, in Second Life. And your community, I guess, has widened, but developed from, would I be right in saying you sort of developed from that initial core?
Yeah, pretty much. I realized when I first started Inworlds, it wasn't supposed to be a business. Honest to goodness, it was never meant to be a business. I was one of those hobbyists, but it just turned into one of those things where people came to me and said, "Well, how much are you going to charge me to do this?" And I said, "Okay." So I sat down, I figured out the numbers. I said, "This is what's going to cost you," and I've stuck by those numbers. And I know in the price driving down thing that we saw happen over the last year or two in Open Sim. We've stayed consistent, and we've lost some customers, obviously, but on the whole, we have kept a whole group core of them because we are consistent in our service. and our support. So while it may seem like, oh, okay, here's Inworld's the most expensive now out of all the open sims when you think about it, other than Second Life. But we're still as big as we are, but we're also doing all the events and we're doing all these different things, and we're consistently in the service and the support department. That's where we really focus, and it works.
And you see something that we've noticed here, for example, we're broadcasting on a grid called the Great Canadian Grid, which was it really, the guy who runs it is, he used to have regions in Second Life, but it's his hobby, you know, he didn't really want to do it a business. But, what, you know, a region that used to be $5 a month is now $25 a month, you know, big increase. And what, you know, it was inevitable because what Maria has attested to this on a number of occasions. It's okay starting a grid, but when you're doing the costings and things, you actually have to allow for scaling. You know, your overheads grow higher. You can't just add lots and lots more $5 regions because you need more manpower and people working on it with you to maintain all that and offer good service. So you really need to think of that in advance. And it seems to me that Inworlds, you from that hobbyist start, if you like, you've managed to scale well. Let's put it that way. You haven't fallen into the trap of overloading yourself with a whole lot of region owners and something that can't be maintained. We
have a great staff. I mean, David is awesome at what he does, and scalability obviously was a huge thing. I remember when we first started it, the first thing I told him, I said assets, fix the assets. And he did. So, because I saw that was going to be in growing, I knew that was going to be the very first thing that we would have issues with was going to be the assets. And it's something that, you know, we have a great team. We have Jim, we have David, we have Mike Chase, we have myself. I don't do any of the programming anymore, which is really nice. Trust me.
I can believe that. I can believe that.
But we have a great team, a great core of people who work on everything. And now, of course, we've got the Moses team working on stuff. And it's just been really, really awesome to just see that, you know, we went through that big bump of watching the prices just plummet. And yeah, it hurt. No lie there. Anybody looks at our numbers, you know, we don't hide them. They're right there in plain sight for anybody to look at. But it's also good to see that people are understanding that you can't run this at $5 a month. It doesn't work. It simply does not work. So, you know, and that's where we lead into the advertising, because that's the other aspect of running this. Even if you are a hobbyist, you can't rely on everybody else to keep giving you, you know, business or customers or whatnot. The hypergrid is there. It's going to be there. You know, although we are not hypergrid enabled, we don't sit there and say the hypergrid is bad, because it's not. We think it's really cool. It just needs to be secure. That's always been Inworld's, you know, big thing. And we definitely promote, you know, our residents going out there and seeing what's out on the hypergrid. Really, we do. We don't have an issue with it. But one thing that we do see is that in advertising has become a big, big part of it, and we shoulder a lot of that. So maybe it's time that everybody shoulders some of that.
Well, that is intriguing, because I was about to say, actually, we have. We have this situation. I think it is what you might a cusp survival situation for both Open Simulator and the hypergrid, which many Open Simulator worlds are connected by. There is a danger that with all the new VR tech and all the promotion for, you know, different systems, different platforms, there's going to be winners or losers, but there are going to be alternatives, whether it's something like high fidelity or something we haven't yet seen, will come along. And there are things that you can get on headsets and Oculus at the moment, like VR chat, which looks, quite frankly, it looks really shoddy. It looks worse than the beta of Second Life did, so it's 15 years ago. You know, so, you know, although you've got a fancy headset with motion tracking and everything else, the environment and the immersion or the suspension of belief isn't really quite there yet, to put it mildly.
Right.
But they, you know, everything progresses, you know.
It does.
Look at Open Sim 10 years ago. Nobody could use it, and they say, "Oh, we've got to get this working." Now, of course, it works, although you can argue that there's a hell of a lot of glitches and too much code. But you know, the idea here is that at this cusp point, we need to promote and subsequently advertise, if we think of it that way, the metaverse as we know it, as we built it, including OpenSim.
Yes.
Including a subdomain of that, which is the hypergrid, which is almost all of OpenSim, actually, and owners of individual regions. It doesn't matter which of those three is being promoted. At the moment, we should think of it, and I'm sure you agree here, as promoting the metaverse that we know and love.
Yes. Yes.
And, we've got to bring the metaverse itself up to date, and we'll come to that in a few minutes when we start talking about viewers and web and stuff like that, and move forward. But what we offer, right, this aspiring VR community, if you like, is not just another bit of surround vision that they can stand in and look about, or just another game where they can walk around a variety of predefined paths that eventually reconnect and tell a story or something. We offer them a completely living environment where the uplink and the downlink is all essential, and every avatar you meet is another human being in their avatar form, and you can have a meeting together, or you can collaborate on a building together, or you can even do a piece of artwork together. It's creative collaboration, but if you're not a creative type, you can come in there and just have the wonderful desert island home you never can afford. Or alternatively, you can hop out of that home all the while and go to a different musical gig every night. This is a living online environment. Maybe it started with chat rooms, I don't know, and it's just developed, but nothing on offer in this new VR world yet has anything to compete with that whole living world package that we already have in place. So our challenge is to advertise, promote, and move ourselves into something viable that can be attractive and workable, with this new world of all sorts of toys that are going to be added on. So when we were talking about advertising there, it was, the first thing that we came into the conversation was we suddenly realized we were actually talking about the whole concept, advertising the whole concept, much more than your platform. You advertise Inworld, but you're also advertising OpenSim and the metaverse at the same time.
So the Inworld is, Maria had said it, and I just sort of went with it, which is very true because we're positioned in between Second Life and OpenSim.
I'd like to. Can I add the numbers for a second?
Sure.
I just pulled them up. Inworld is currently one of the top 2 grids when it comes to bringing new users into OpenSim, with at least 2,000 new registrations a month. And historically, it's often been the top grid in this space. In addition, 89% of Inworld's users have been to at least one other grid, and the average Inworld's user has been to 4 other grids. So Inworld is currently one of the top entry points into OpenSim, and OpenSim is a huge beneficiary of Inworld's marketing efforts to bring new people in.
Yes.
And I've posted about this, and I've got a whole bunch of charts for this as well, if anybody's interested. And
Maria and her charts.
I love charts. And I've shared the link to this so that if anybody has any questions about this, this is the official Hypergrid business position and numbers.
Yes.
So, Ellie, you are officially the Linden Lab of Open Simulator.
Okay, wait a minute. Did I ever tell you guys that there was a rumor that went around like very, very long ago that I was Philip Rosedale's child? And I'm like, do you guys not know that I'm actually older than Philip? That would have been a little difficult. Just, I had to point that out because it always makes me chuckle when I think about that rumor that was floating around. And I'm like, really? The things that people will say.
I know there was somebody, I'm not going to mention names actually, on the Hypergrid, who whenever I talk to them, I think I'm talking to Philip. Because the voice, the pitch, everything about their voice is Philip's. They are not Philip, I assure you, but I know who they are.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
But you get that some disconnect. Think, hey, Philip, is that you in here?
So to get back on to point because we digress so much.
So
we do. We sit at this unique position between Open Sim and Second Life, and we recognize this. We have for a very long time. And so we do a lot of advertising. And what I was explaining earlier is that what I see in the metaverse, unfortunately, to date, has been this real nitpicking at each other's customers, which hasn't really helped anybody, to be perfectly blunt. It doesn't help. It doesn't grow the numbers. It doesn't do anything. And in fact, you can lose people because there are people who are not interested in the drama, and that's fine. But one thing that I think that has really been missing or lacking is the fact that as the metaverse, we are this huge ecosystem. We all exist because of one another. I mean, yeah, okay, we're Halcyon. We're not Open Sim. We're Halcyon, but we are that stepping point for Open Sim. And Open Sim gets a lot of its people from us. And we have to recognize the fact that we are the leader in that area. So we all sort of need to work together because one thing that I said is that the metaverse is not in the mainstream. And when I was at SXSW with David and Jim, one of the things that we heard a lot was, "Oh, this is just like Second Life." And it was not said in the best light, which is really kind of sad. But there you go. Okay, it was said, and I'm just going to say it. I'm going to throw it out there, and we heard it a lot. We need to get the metaverse to be mainstream so that people start understanding that augmented reality and virtual reality, these things are coming whether you like it or not. Here's that first stepping stone. Again, take the position that we all as the metaverse can really have a large hand in the future of virtual reality and the future of augmented reality by all stepping together and saying, you know what, we're all going to we're all going to hold hands, we're going to sing Kumbaya, and what can I do to help promote my grid, my customers, and bring in new people so that we show them the better side, not that Second Life side that they've seen, but that better side of the metaverse that we can all embrace and say we all want to work together. And part of that is advertising.
I know you're not on the hypergrid, but in a sense, I think at times I felt the hypergrid has helped that because for a long while you would see, like you say, different Open Simulator grids opening up and trying to get pitch customers, maybe get the tribes from Second Life or find new customers on their own and kind of, making sure that you knew their grid was better than any of the other competition. And, a bit of competition, fine. But when you're dealing with a whole new platform and trying to move it forward, too much competition is going to get in the way of promoting the whole thing. But suddenly, I did notice, new grids coming online. I'm sure Maria will attest to this, where they suddenly realized the importance of having their advertising page saying hypergrid enabled. Now, I know you're not. We know the reasons for that. We'll come back to those indirectly. But for the first time, you did actually notice that these independent grids who were, promoting themselves above the others, suddenly realized it was important for them to say they're on the hypergrid. So yeah, well, come and join us, and you'll be free to hypergrid out and hypergrid your friends in, because they saw this as a consciously or not, they would have known that this is a crucial factor to what existed with it. Unlike Second Life, you can connect all the grids in the world together, and it's you're not going to get new users about the hypergrid coming to a closed world because you won't let them hypergrid out. Even as Maria says, many of your dedicated residents will no doubt close their viewer and then log in to a hypergrid enabled grid to visit others, and then they go out exploring, and then they close down and then come back into your grid where their home is, for example. The reasons you haven't got the hypergrid enabled is a long story. Firstly, your code, part of your code, Halcyon and whatever, is gone way off the base code. But secondly, as you pointed out, traditionally, I don't think it's so much the case now, but there were security issues where there was a bit too much compromise in joining the hypergrid that could badly affect your grid if it all went wrong. So there's two aspects to that, and these have been addressed kind of down the line. But clearly, when it comes to advertising, what is your thought on? I presume you're not actually an advertising agent. I'm going to say your pitch. The intent is to pitch the whole metaverse and obviously pitch your particular thing as a living example of the best of the metaverse. Yeah, but we're pitching both. But are we pitching like you see adverts for Second Life where choose your own avatar, be a furry or be a sexy doll or whatever. Very consumer driven, and I guess consumers are the main part of the equation. But would you pitch it along the ideas of what you can come in world and do in the same way you might advertise a game, or do you think we should pitch it as something much more like a 3D toolbox? Not in those words, because that wouldn't appeal to anybody, really.
No, it really wouldn't. You said that, I'm like, oh my God, my marketing side just cringed. Oh,
yeah.
God.
No, we're talking academically here. We'll have to find a magic words for toolbox. But do you see what I mean?
I do. Actually, the way I do this, and I've done it for almost 2 years now. So when I have several different ideas when I run through, like obviously I do our events, our RFL. We have our Fall Fest that's coming up, so I'll be doing particular ones. I'll be going through the builds before we open up, and I'll be posting those builds so that it'll attract people. That's just one of those, but that's more towards that kind of stuff is actually targeted towards our actual already existing audience. I don't target that outside too much. Just little things will go outside of that. But when I'm targeting for new people, new metaverse, new people that I know, I want to really grab a hold and say, you got to have something that says, why would I want to go there? When I look at MMOs and I look at the virtual reality stuff and all that, it's like, really, people, what are you missing here? And I look at Second Life ads because I see them when I go places because Google AdWords is what they use. And it looks great and all that. You notice that they have the little ads that have the price tags on everything so that you can go buy the sunglasses and the hat and the boat and all that good stuff, right? That doesn't do anything for me, just so you know. As a person who's a consumer, I look at that, why would I want to go spend money with you? I don't want that, So what I do when I do my advertising, I take resident samples or pictures that I've taken, and I want to inspire their imagination. I don't want them to. We're not a game, obviously. We don't have an end quest or anything like that. I want them to rethink what they do every day because that's who our residents are. Our residents are people who have immersed themselves in our world, built their own creations, their own what I call shinies, the things that make them go, ooh, that's what I want. And they've done that. And we all have different things that we like to do, right? So I try to appeal to that. So I appeal to them on build, socialize, entertain, be entertained, create, whatever it is that you want, it's here. And we can all do that in the metaverse. The metaverse is there's so much that can be done in the metaverse. And I don't think anybody's really truly defined it. So
it's a microcosm of real life, quite frankly.
It is.
Microcosm, yes, but nevertheless, that's what it is.
And your interests are different. Right, and your interests are different than my interests versus Maria's interests versus James. But you know what? You can't appeal to everybody based on that. So you take little tiny slices of that and you put it out there. And the idea is to say, we have this really happy community. We have this really happy, drama follows everywhere. Just deal with it. That's the way humans are, right? We get into a group and we just can't help ourselves. We have drama. But so we just try to present the best of what we have. And the more people that we do this with, the bigger the metaverse is going to grow. And all of us are going to be recipients of that. With each and every little grid putting out that little piece. And it doesn't take a lot to do it.
One thing that you've hinted at there with dare I say Linda Lab's advertising is that it comes in spurts, but when it does, it seems to be very narrow focused on a particular theme they've latched onto, like avatar appearance. You can be a robot, you can be a boat, you can be a furry, you can be a human, you can be young, you can be old, whatever. And it offers variety, but for people who aren't interested in exactly what their avatar looks like, that advertising means nothing.
Right.
Because there's nothing in the advertising that tells them they can go to a concert or an home, because they focus that patch of advertising on avatar appearance. Come and dress yourself up like a dress-up doll thing.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how much variety they offer within that aspect of Second Life, they're advertising become an avatar. They're not advertising all the things that avatar can do.
Right.
And when I think of advertising the hypergrid, if I'm standing up and just telling people what the hypergrid is, many of the metaphors like teleport, which often needs explaining, by the way,
Right.
are common to both a closed world like Second Life and the hypergrid. But they mean a very different thing, because, on the hypergrid, the places you go to are independent things that grow and contract in size, different populations, different specialities. And they, you're not just teleporting, sorry, to another place on an existing grid that's maybe got a different flavor or a different venue. You can actually be hyper jumping, teleporting to an entire different culture. You can move from Canada to France, Franco grid.
Right.
You can then hop over to Metropolis, German grid, or down to Graph grid, an Italian grid, which has lots of internationally redeeming features, art and culture and everything else. And maybe as a plus point, they have special features for their local French-speaking communities as well. But the notion is that the hypergrid connects the world here. Servers throughout the planet, all operating on a common platform, and just making it easy to hop around the hypergrid like you hop around the web, a web page. You've obviously got to be in a metaverse viewer to do it, which is we'll kind of come to.
We'll get there. We'll get to that.
We'll get to the web in a minute. But nevertheless, I kind of think of imagine, anywhere, any place, together, wherever you are on the planet, but also your ability to go anywhere on the planet. Some kind of advertising that sort of, says that whole world is there.
That's part of that microcosm, though. Think about it. What you're saying, okay, is if we're saying that the metaverse is a microcosm, then shouldn't the advertising be a microcosm of that microcosm?
Yeah.
So I think I just confused myself a little bit, but let's think about this. So if Inworld has the RFL event going on right now, and I'm advertising that, right? And Great Canadian Grid has an event going on here, and they're advertising that, which is a totally different event, okay? And then you take Franco Grid, and they've got this French event going on over there, okay? And you start adding, and you start putting that out to people who have never been to the metaverse.
Yeah.
Guess about, you know about word of mouth. We all know how word of mouth works. Well, advertising is the same concept.
Yeah.
So the more grids who are doing it, the more who are pushing out our content, saying this is what we have going on, the more people because we're not all going to be talking to the same marketing people.
No, quite. Yeah.
So if we all are doing that, guess what? We're all going to start seeing the bonus of more users. Even Inworld, as a closed grid, we'll still see bonus of new users. So will the Open Sim, the hypergrid. We all work together. That's just the way it is. So I would love to see more grids pushing that out, and it's so easy to do. You don't have to be like, a whiz bang kid at doing this. It's just taking what you find interesting on your grid, whether it's builds, art, music, whatever is your interest. I always want to tell the grid owners, take what your passion is and put that into it. Yeah. So if you started your grid because you're into music, that's what you should push. So if you have a Facebook account, take that, create your little grid page. It's free. Facebook doesn't charge you for that. And start putting your events on there. And then maybe spend like $1 or $2 just getting some page likes through Facebook. By the way, don't ever, ever, ever buy into the scams that say that they will get 1,000 users for you for $2. That's okay?
Yeah.
Let me put that out there right here, right now. Okay.
I've got to confirm that those users are fake.
They'll get removed.
Your money.
I read an article this morning. Apparently, it's the 30th anniversary of a piece of software that came out for Windows 3.1 and Windows 95 called SoftRAM. And apparently, it sold millions, so something like $70 a take. And it was a complete scam. It did nothing. They brought this up to say that 30 years later, you still got to beware. This shit's still happening. It's
Oh
much,
yeah.
much
Yeah.
more subtle now. So
But Facebook, you could spend a couple bucks a week and get some valid Facebook likes, and you
yeah,
can target it to particular people. And here's what happens: you start doing that, you start building that, and I've literally built this up. I told you we're up over 8,000, and we could possibly be over 9,000. I haven't looked this week.
yeah.
Of these likes, and what you can do is you can then target those likes and their friends. You automatically have access to advertising to all of their friends
Right.
because they like your page. Isn't that neat? So if you only spend, I spend like $5 a day getting likes. Literally, that's what I spend for Inworlds. Okay, I spend $5 a day, so I spend $150 a month just on getting likes for Inworlds on our Facebook page.
Right.
And it's slowly built and grown. And so what we do from there is we then target those people, those friends that are out there with ads. And it doesn't take a lot to do this.
Yeah, because
So
a friend or a friend of a friend's already in there. So yeah, I'll check that out.
yeah, it's very, very cost effective. I found it I love Facebook. Anybody asks me, sometimes they drive me crazy with the reset of my limits. But for the most part, when I'm actually doing my advertising, I love how I can get down. I can say I want women only. I can say I want men only. I can say I want the age groups that I want. I can target particular countries. I can set the ad creative. You can do slideshows of your grid as an actual ad. There's a lot of creativity that you can do, and you got to realize they have over 1 billion users.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
I'm a bit cynical about the fast book, as I call it, but no, your point is taken. I mean, for marketing, it is a tool, and actually any tool that can target to that degree has major advantages.
It beats AdWords.
Yeah,
it does.
Okay.
I use Google AdWords. It's not nearly as effective as Facebook is.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's just Facebook's addictive, isn't it? Well, and some people say Facebook could be considered a virtual world, although actually it's more consuming than doing.
Right.
Okay, let's segue, because we've got we've got the advertising thing, of course, and we're naturally now moving into. Hey, I've got a good idea for an advert. Wouldn't it be lovely if I could put an ordinary web link on the web that put people into my virtual world, my region, or the hypergrid, or whatever? And of course, we were talking about this last week. You weren't here, but I synopsized earlier. Now, so this is now something also that is looking like a very, very real possibility. I will be able, someday to put my regions here just say, not wholly interactive, but just so people can view them. And they'll be able to view them through a window on the web and move around them. They won't be able to build or do any of the fancy stuff we do in clients yet, but at least they'll be able to explore them. And I'll be able to post on my Facebook page, hey, folks, you've heard of this thing called virtuality? Well, believe it or not, I've been here for 15 years and I got 12 regions here. You can come and gawk at. Just click this link and come and see me sometime. That's small scale me, contacting my folks on Facebook. But the opportunities that would open up, even if it wasn't the full creative world, are phenomenal. And we are moving towards that now. And you're the very reason, in some ways, that you are not on the hypergrid is connected with the very reason that one aspect of this looks like coming to fruition. And this is where, I'm going to leave you to explain it, but basically I guess it's the code base, your code base, isn't it? That's called Halcyon as opposed to Open Simulator proper. Mm-hmm. And that you have got together with the Moses grid, the American Army grid, and they are using your code there. And subsequently, they've been able to take that code and put more of their energy into doing particular things they want, which includes the idea of being able to, I forget the name of it already. We were talking about it last week, but there's like an intermediary program that rests between that Halcyon and an HTML5 web page, and basically allows it to come onto the web. My expectation is that because of your connection here, that I suspect Inworld is going to be the first OpenSim virtual world to be on the web, because you've almost got your finger on it there. And somebody before I even connected to you earlier, I was talking to somebody else online saying, Inworlds are in the perfect position here to just take off as the first open sim world that will be on the web. But anyway, that's enough of that talk. How did all this come about? You had the PhysX engine, didn't you, for one thing, and you had code that diverted from the Open Similar code. You made it work, which meant doing things that didn't necessarily fall in line with the core developers. And we won't go into why that was.
No.
But basically, you took the core code and you developed it yourself with your folks on a different avenue. Not that far apart, but enough apart that you can't implement Hypergrid, but also enough apart that you could have things like the physics engine, which gave much better physics to the world. Right. And I presume there's a connection between PhysX and Halcyon in some
There is. Oh, yes, most definitely.
So give me the history. Give me the path.
So the history is actually, believe it or not, my very first thing as far as diverting from OpenSim was that our assets had to change, because scale out assets on a database is not a good thing. And I knew this from previous websites that I had worked on, in which we were storing entire files as blob data, and that's how they're stored in OpenSim, which is just bad. And so I said, well, we need to change this. So we started working on that. We were making other little changes to the groups, and we were making changes to our IMs, and we were making all these they were like little, what we call low-hanging fruit in development, that were easy fixes that just needed to be done. Right. So that's really where things started. And then inventory was also, but one of the things that David was really, really big on, and I remember he brought onto IDI after he came on board, and he had a bird, and the bird didn't work. Huh. And David was not happy over that.
I know that feeling.
And David was not happy, and he said, our script engine must change. And so Phlox was born, and Phlox really was the big one, because Phlox is when you read what Doug Maxwell says on the comments and whatnot, Phlox is really huge, because we don't have var regions. Everybody says, why doesn't Inworld have var regions? Because we don't need them. You can literally, the biggest problem with doing scripts when you're running a vehicle or a boat, a plane, whatever, is you're trying to move from one physical server to another physical server. And you have to move that entire script and its state that it's in, where it left off at, across those two servers. So, and you have to pick it up again where it was going. So Phlox was a really, really, really big thing for us. And physics. Yes, physics was another one. And so we went looking for physics, because obviously the Havoc engine was not something that was affordable for us. And what OpenSim had was not really what we were looking for. So we came up with the NVIDIA one, and that worked out really, really well, obviously, because it works very well to this day. But what really helps is that we have so much growth with that physics engine that we can do. It's some things that we haven't hit on, but we've talked about for years, which is, the flowing cloth, the flowing hair, all the things that can be done. But a lot of games don't do it because it's a lot of GPU for the end user. So they try to avoid it. They try to keep it affordable for them. And obviously, if we do this, then we're going to make it available to creators to be able to do those. And then you have really big problems. Just look at Mesh. I mean, originally when Mesh was introduced, you had all sorts of big issues because creators had to get used to making Mesh and making it affordable for the GPUs that couldn't handle it out there. So it's all a big thing. But the military stepped in, because what they were looking for is they were looking for that script engine that worked. They were looking for the physics engine that worked, because they need to have real-time type of physics, because this is what they're training our men with. Yeah. This is what they're doing. So it was really important to them. And the other thing is that Dr. Maxwell works on a deadline. He has a deadline just like we all do. through the government. And yeah, he's funded, but he's got to meet his deadlines. And he was having a really hard time with meeting his deadlines. And so we got to talking and we sat down and we showed them our code base. We went through everything with them and they decided to pick it up. And I'm really excited because this is the first thing for them to really say, we're not focused on core code anymore. We're now being able to focus on what we want to do and where we want to take our project. And it's just like, the internet. The military came up with the internet, and guess what we have today? So it's going to be good, I think, for everybody. Yeah, okay, you're right. Inworld will probably have the first web-related viewer where everybody can connect in. But I think you guys will be able to port it for OpenSim. I mean, obviously, you guys are working on porting the flocks and whatnot, which is why we put it out there, so that it could be ported, somebody else could do it instead of us doing it. So I think it'll be really good for OpenSim and for us. And I think it'll really help the metaverse in a really big way, because we'll be able to really just push it out. Like Maria was saying, she can make it simple and easy for those 60,000 users to be able to come in, press a button, bam, you're there. I mean, who doesn't like that idea? Come on.
Yeah, well, exactly. Any arguments out there, folks? Well, go away. Go away.
Go away, right?
Yeah. I do want to confirm that Doug Maxwell from the U.S. Army did say that it will be possible to convert it to OpenSim, that it will be open sourced, that anybody can look at it. It will be in JavaScript, and grids will be able to modify the web viewers for like extra things that they might want to have for their residents in particular. I am so looking forward to seeing this come out. You can't even believe it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Yep.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's a big step forward that I think we can all agree that for at least 5 years, Maria, we've been sitting here saying we really need a web viewer.
No, I've been doing this since 2009, so 7 years.
Well, I'm just saying last 5 years, as the general, everybody agrees.
Okay, everybody 2 years to catch up with me. Yeah, okay.
You're 2 years ahead, Maria. We know.
No, it's great.
Yeah, no, I mean, the mood on this show last week, well, this week too, but I mean, we suddenly become extremely more optimistic than we've been for a long time, because, this is such, a core move. And, I can see, on this show in coming weeks, we're going to continue this. We'll have Moses here.
Wait, do I get to say to Maria, neener?
Who?
Do I get to say to Maria, neener?
About what?
Her doom and gloom prospects for Inworld.
Oh. Yes. In the comment that I just pointed to, I do say that I do have to admit that my predictions of gloom have not come true, and that your business model is in fact working for you, and I was wrong. Yes.
It's all good. It's all good.
You can copy this clip and put it on your website.
I'm going to record it. I'm going to put a recording right here on my wall, and that's going to be it, Maria.
Make it into a gift. I was wrong.
Maria,
business model is working.
Maria, live on television. Maria eats her words. Right.
Yes. Give me a hat, somebody that I can chew on. Yes.
You didn't bring a chewable. That's what you should have brought a hat along. then worn it on your hand and chewed it with the right animation.
If I had known,
we don't have edible hats yet. What?
Well, we got an animation in that chair that will allow you to chew on something. So you should just bring a hat and chew on it all day. Anyway, let's move on. Well, we're going to move into news in a sec, actually, but hopefully you'll hang around, Ellie.
I'm going to grab one of these beers out of your chest here, and I'm just going to start drinking.
Absolutely. I'm just curious before we move into your thoughts on two things, right? I'm going to forget surround vision and VR tech and stuff for a minute, but
smell-o-vision. Let's talk smell-o-vision.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Those are the ones who are off somewhere else doing their own platform without no interop. Right. I forgot. Oh yeah. Right. The idea of a web viewer and the ability to link via a web link to that viewer
Mhm.
is wonderful. It's not just going to be the fact that we can put it on the web page, it's that we can use everything beautiful about the web to get people to it. That cross connects with our advertising, promotion bit and stuff like that, and just makes it fast, simple, easy, and whatever the current phrase is. Yeah, like natural. And maybe there'll be viewers that can divide it into two screens so you can look at it through your goggles and stuff like that. But key to this is, do we actually need, I mean, well, it's possible that a fully fledged web viewer might replace the need for any other viewer ultimately. But there are big questions as to OpenSim generically, Hypergrid or not, needing its own viewer, something that hasn't got all Linden Labs legacy code hanging around in it, for example. It was pointed out to me earlier on that your Halcyon engine, I guess I can call it, is, I don't know, I think somebody said like 100,000 lines of code, whereas Open Simulator is several million lines of code. It probably isn't quite that bad, but you get the idea. And also, and I keep thinking, well, is all this legacy stuff we got in viewers back from the days when Second Life was the only place to go, just getting in our way because a lot of it's irrelevant here? And isn't it time we actually had a dedicated viewer for for the metaverse? And I've been wondering since this latest news we've been talking about came along, could that web page embed, if that's the right word, the HTML 5 build that will bring it to the web, could that be deployed as an app, for example, that can be run as a standalone app on some devices that can support it? And could that app indeed be an app on something like Mac or Windows that would replace the actual viewers we use at the moment, which really do have a lot of legacy code we don't need in them? Well, have you got any particular thoughts on that thread of it too, over and beyond its usability on the web?
Well, okay, so I always have to keep two things in mind. Yes, I represent Inworlds, and I also represent the metaverse. So we try to keep everything. And one of the things that we've said with Moses, and that they've always been very supportive of, is making sure that everything sort of meshes together. Pardon the pun, all right, but that everybody is sort of on the same page. That's why he wants to keep it open so that it can be ported over so that people can use it. So I would say that he's already said that the first one is going to be just view only. So people are just going to be able to log in and actually just, see things. That's all they're going to be able to do. I don't know if we'll ever be able to actually you got to realize that there's a ton of traffic that moves back and forth when you're building in real time and to what another user is seeing. Which is why, of course, the Unity engine became so popular, because you could build offline and then people could just come and see your build, but there was no building going on. So that helped limit that traffic. So
well, this seems to be what's going to happen with Project Sansoft and Linden Labs. You'll do the work, publish it, but you won't be able to, you maybe fast, but you'll deploy it. You won't actually do it live, so to speak.
Right, and I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see that more and more happen, which is, there's an up and a downside when you think about it, really. Okay, from a company perspective, it's a great thing because it reduces costs, bandwidth costs, obviously. All right. From a consumer point of view, not so great, because it's kind of cool to see somebody put something together, right? I mean, that's kind of.
Well, you learn by watching.
That the building is like next on the agenda for what they're going to do with the viewer. That their goal is to reduce the need for third-party viewers altogether.
Right.
So, and I think that also will make OpenSim really unique right now, because all the other VR platforms out there right now do not have in-world creation tools. You create offline, you upload the world, and then you experience it. And I think in-world creation, social creation, is one of the unique, great benefits of the Second Life OpenSim platform that right now nobody else has. And being able to move that into the web, into VR, I think that's one of the things that puts us back in the race.
Yeah, I mean, we're not so much a live world; we're a living world.
Exactly.
And, you know, that there's a distinction there, and that we're unique. Oh, well, Second Life has got it, OpenSim's got it, the Hypergrid's got it, you know, but within this sort of field, we're unique. I would love to see the look on somebody at Linden Lab's face when they suddenly realise that, say, Inworlds is available on the web, and they're busy playing with Project Sansar, and they can't do it with Second Life, and suddenly they've got a major competitor is on the web. And
right. Well, it's kind of funny because, okay, we all have to have kudos to Second Life because Second Life has put us where we are today.
Yeah, they started us off. We love them.
Yes. We love them all to pieces because if it wasn't for them, we would not be here. So that being said, it is kind of humorous because sometimes I sort of want to beat my head against the wall and say, why did you do things the way you did it? But I have said, David and I have always maintained, we wanted to step away from Second Life and do something completely. That's why we have the P chat. That's why we do the Twitter shares and things like that to the inventory, because we always want to take a little step away from what everybody else was doing. One thing that I think that has been really bad is that, and we have fallen into this trap at Open Sim as well, of trying to keep up with Second Life instead of innovating and saying, what can we do that's different from Second Life? And because of that viewer connection. So I think this is going to allow Open Sim and Inworlds, of course, and anybody else who jumps into this bandwagon and says, what can we do that's innovative, which just grows the technology because it's all open source.
And it's more necessary than ever, I think, because you look at something like Firestorm. I mean, obviously the main Firestorm with the Havoc engine is totally inappropriate, not only for you, but any Open Sim. So all the new stuff Linden Labs are doing there with client-side Havoc is totally useless to us, so we don't want that. And yet there's all sorts of other little tweaks going on. That means even the Open Sim version of Firestorm they ensure it's compatible with Second Life, and therefore is cluttered with things that we have absolutely no use for. So
don't need,
the more and more the days go by, the more and more I think, get rid of the archaic stuff and move on.
I said that 5 years ago, Mel, so you're definitely behind the times with me on that one.
I'm always behind the times.
It's all good. It's all good. I remember David and I having that conversation, and of course it always comes down to resources. Who are you going to get to be able to do that? So, and this is something that both Inworlds and Open Sim have suffered from, is resources of doing the things that really are going to break us out and away from, just following in the steps of Second Life.
I know. Just on the side point here, I know some grids. In fact, I know Moses, for example. When you want to visit them, if they give you permission and stuff, you actually download a separate client. In other words, you don't use the default Firestorm or anything. And I think you have a separate client, don't you, for Inworlds?
Our own, our actual own. But really,
is it still pretty much derived from those Singularity Firestorm kind of niche, or have you done a lot of client-side code as well?
No, we're actually, it's very, Cinder does work on our actual viewer for us. So very Alchemy, which is also very Firestorm. Yeah, so she does all the work on it, but we also understand that we do work with the Firestorm devs and all that, because we don't ever want to get so far away from Open Sim that our viewer is not compatible with everybody else.
Sure. Yeah.
So we try to maintain that thing. Again, we stand in between Second Life and Open Sim. So the things that we do, especially when it comes to the viewer, we really we've donated a lot of stuff that the viewers have picked up for Open Sim. Like how they pick up handle inventory. Firestorm for a long time loaded all your inventory. If you had 1 million things in there, it would take you do you guys remember that when Firestorm, you would log in with Firestorm and it would take forever for you to actually load in?
It still does.
Sometimes most of that was inventory. Well, they fixed it because we actually made it so that it paused and it would actually read it, and it worked for OpenSim as well, and it would actually read it in smaller chunks. So we work with all of them so that things do actually work correctly.
That's something you probably don't come across it because it's more unique to the Hypergrid, but the suitcase folder, for example, I often, when I do a hyper jump, I get annoyed that the suitcase folder doesn't get priority on the sync. I always thought it was meant to, because for ease of use, you keep everything you travel with or collect in your suitcase till you get home. and yet, I'll be hypergridding around on another grid, and I can't get to something in my suitcase because my local inventory is still loading for the remote server. Whereas, if it prioritized my suitcase, it would be a lot more manageable. So yeah, there are little things like that to be addressed too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's not our job, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Not our job.
I think we've got a pretty good view of what's going on, with your connection with Moses and everything else like that. And we're going to be following this up in coming weeks for sure, because it's going to come quite rapidly. I mean, my bet is by the end of the year, we're going to have an Open Simulator, maybe Inworlds as well as Moses, on the web. And then what we'll just be able to point to the thing and say, yeah, there it is. And that in itself will be an incentive for Open Sim Core possibly to, if it needs to catch up, they'll take one look, hey, somebody's moved us to that, and it's bang wow wonderful, and we better put up our socks, kind of thing. So, and of course, we'll have a big conference to discuss it all out, which will be even more fun.
Yay!
Right. Yay! Let's just move on to our normal business. We've been on this over an hour, so we'll probably have to.
I told you.
But there again, we do this we end up doing this every week, which just means we got to, skip to some of the other stuff. Right, on the hypergrid side of things, I think Open Sim wise, I think I sort of mentioned everything at the beginning. There are quite a few posts here to Hypergrid Business during the week. Pings from the afterlife.blogspot.it. That's this members blog with a weekly report on the Hypergrid Safari. It's called Gore and More, and features lots of coverage of the two regions the Safari went to on Wednesday. And incidentally, there's a new video, which is it's only 10 minutes long, this version. I might be a longer one that I published on the Metaworld stream, where it's got Philip Rosedale talking at a social media week in Los Angeles about a week or so ago. And quite interesting talk, because although he obviously gets the word in about high fidelity, it was social media week, so his brief seemed to be to actually talk about social virtual reality, concentrating on social VR rather than the technology behind. He actually talks more about Second Life, I think, as examples, than even high fidelity. So quite an interesting little talk there. And let's see, that all goes to Maria. Also quite a few, well, not quite a few, but I think there were about 6 posts yesterday from Maria's sister site, hyperica.com. And one other post that came up during the week, it's in my list as it's on my feed as welcome. It's the landing page for Space, or as we seem to be calling it, Science Space, which is a Unity 3D thing done by Sinewave and Adam Frisby and co, who are in London here, in fact. And they are promoting it as veteran users, a virtual world platform built by veteran users for everyone. And they are actually, I think, what we would consider an Open Sim veteran users from Open Sim and Second Life, but although the actual platform is built in Unity. So
it's not. It's I've got a guest access to it, and I've been experimenting with the interface. I'm going to be writing it up soon. It doesn't quite fit the Second Life and Open Sim user profile. No. It's kind of in between the kind of platform where you have to have hired developers to do everything, and the kind of platform that Open Sim and Second Life is, which is users can buy content, put it up, rearrange it in a region the way they feel like it, and then if they want to, learn more about the building and the tutorials and stuff like that. Right. This is one of those platforms where you build locally using the Unity interface. It looks a little bit like a Photoshop or a Blender interface. It is one of those things where you do need a little bit of training to do. You don't just jump in and do it like you can with Open Sim and Second Life. It does require a little bit of effort. You might want to hire a designer to do your builds. It's not something that you can just drop and use.
Is the building interface actually Unity, or is it a kind of custom built, simplified?
No, it's not simplified. It's the actual Unity interface with additional sine wave stuff added on top of it. So they've got a whole bunch of library of scripts, like swinging doors, that kind of thing. So they've got a library of all that stuff, and a library of objects, and a library of like NPCs and all sorts of other stuff. It is very powerful, and you don't have to be a programmer, and you can do the whole game with game logic and stuff like that just by using the interface without having to write a line of code. You don't have to learn any LSL or scripting languages or anything. You can do it all in the interface. Yeah. But that means that the interface is a little bit of a bear.
Of course.
Like when I open up Blender, I have a really hard time figuring out what to do to get stuff done. Learning a GIMP, which is like an open source version of Photoshop, took me quite a while. Yeah. And this would be in the same kind of category. So it's like a power user designer kind of user base, not the end user, not the high-end developer, but somebody in between.
Yeah. I think back from when I used to work training Photoshop, and I was in there at the beginning, and sometimes I look at it now and think, I can learn this now because it's been a curve, I know my way all around it, but it all happened over the evolution of the thing. And I have to say, I look at things like Blender and some of these things, and I think, oh, please, not now. I'm too old for this. But there was another post during the week from John Bouchard, the architect, who used to do what was it, a Wikiverse or so.
Virtual. Yeah.
Yeah, he now has his company Art Virtual, and he has had a post up too. But what he's done is he's obviously created a platform for architects in Unity, much like the sine wave thing. But the building tools, he's actually, instead of what he's done is he's built a building interface which only shows a subset of Unity commands. In other words, for architects and things. So he's simplified the interface to create a subset. It's still a Unity interface, but he's removed anything that he doesn't really consider essential to the business of architecture, which, presumably means that architects will find it pretty easygoing and the learning curve won't be too hard, but it probably hasn't got things in it like, organic terrain or something. Anyway, a similar sort of principle. I mean, it's a wide world out there. Right, okay. Maria, let me hand to you for any highlights from the specific Open Sim Hypergrid related news from you. I noticed a few things here, and then we'll move into James and the more general stuff.
Okay. So first of all, the next Open Sim Treasure Hunt begins October 3rd and runs through November 7th. And this is the Hypergrids, the 4th this year. And so far, we've had more than 26 different grids have participated with more than 122 different regions. So this is something where if you want to bring people into your grid, into your build, you can get some exposure for it. I'm one of the sponsors. I'm donating a virtual reality headset because I have so many of them piling up in my office. People are sending me free ones to review. If you want to review virtual reality headsets, please drop me a line. I've got a bunch of them I can hand out. So contact Leslie Kling or me to get going with that. They're still looking for sponsors and venues.
And there is a sign and kit you can pick up downstairs here. It's all over the place, actually. Yeah,
in Hyperica as well and other places. I think we've talked about Virtual Lisbon before. It's a rebuild of the city of Lisbon. They've moved to DigiWorld. They used to be hosted by Avilabs, and that whole mess, they collapsed last month very loudly and noisily with much swearing and gnashing of teeth. And he also has a Space Life project, also on DigiWorld. And this is pretty cool. They've got simulated planets that you can travel around, and it's it's a VAR region, so no border crossings, which are an issue elsewhere in Open Sim. So that's pretty cool.
We actually covered that last week, so
okay, we talked about that already.
Yeah.
So stop by and visit that. When I was putting together the stats report, which came out this week, I noticed that Genesis Global Journey had a very nice region purchase page with very few options and very simple and clear. And I wrote a little article about that. I strongly urge grids to take people's money first and then ask them for the grid coordinates and avatar names and registrations and everything else, so that otherwise, you ask, what grid coordinates do you want your region to have? And people are like, I don't know. Who knows what grid coordinates they want? And then they go away. Or you get asked, how many CPU cycles per gigasecond do you want to have? And do you want a flux capacitor with your region or not? And you're like, oh, what?
And no time traveling now?
And nobody ends up paying, yeah.
And nobody ends up paying, yeah, because every question you ask, a certain number of people are going to say, I don't know the answer to that question. I'll come back later. And they never come back. So, however, the way they marketed it, they may have simplified it a little bit too much, because they're offering unlimited prims and unlimited avatars. And in practice, you're not going to have that. Things are going to slow down, become unusable. So some people have said that this is actually a bad way to market OpenSim as a whole, because people might take that literally. Instead of a marketing gimmick, they might think that you actually get unlimited avatars and unlimited prims.
I have said that for years.
And of course, do not. There's a practical limit to that. I strongly recommend that people sell regions in terms of Second Life equivalents, because people know what a Second Life region is, and you make it easy for people to understand. They've got a good gut feel of what it's like. But anyway. Can
I ask a very quick question? Just in case there's an answer from Ellie on this. When you're saying regions, Ellie, you obviously have no use for VAR regions because you've got a physics engine that can cross borders and everything like that. Do you, however, do you just still sell region by region, or do you actually sell blocks of regions under special deals? Although they're not VAR regions, I mean, can people get a four region complex for a special price, etc.?
Yes. So we have our private aisles, which are the 45,000 prims, and they have full estate controls and whatever ratings that they want on it, et cetera. That's $75 a month. But then we have our 2x2s, and our 2x2s are a block of 4, obviously 2x2, 2 times 2 equals 4. And they only hold 12,000 prims per region. So actually you get 48,000 prims across the 4. So it's a little bit better deal. And that runs at $85 a month.
All right, so basically you're offering what some people will call a VAR region, but of course it's not a VAR region because you don't need VAR regions, but you do.
Right.
You offer that flexibility. Okay, good to know. So I better get back to Maria before we.
Thank you for the plug. That was awesome. Thank you.
Open Sim Conference is coming up in December. The proposal is up there. Mel, I think you mentioned that. I want to remind people, sponsor it, attend it, submit a proposal for an event. So let's see, stats. Every month I do stats about OpenSim. And there's several reasons for this. Some people love watching numbers. It's one of the best thread articles every month. People like seeing how grids do with respect to each other. Inworld, by the way, is always the top most popular grid in the whole metaverse. So I do want to put that out there.
You're having a good time.
Now, where the hypergrid is making the huge impact is with the smaller closed grids. There are pretty much there's just like 46 closed grids left out there. They have under 1,000 active users between them all. So this means that if you are not in Worlds and you have a closed grid, your residents don't have a lot of friends to play with. They don't have a lot of shopping that they can do. unless you're a school or a company that needs to have a closed grid for a particular reason, it is extremely hard to have a social commercial grid right now that is closed. When you are in a hypergrid, you kind of, in effect, you're part of a giant grid where you have the shopping that's everywhere and the community events, and you can hop all around. And there are several niche grids like Nara's Nook, for example, that offer something unique, that they're very small, but they get a lot of traffic and they have good events because people come to them from all over. They're a little destination for the writers' events. And some of the people who come do make a home there. They get land, they have houses because they want to be a permanent place for that community. And so I'm seeing more and more of that. And over the past few years, and I have a chart of this, that the hypergrid portion of the metaverse has been growing dramatically. The closed portion of the metaverse has been shrinking. The only closed part of the metaverse that is staying is the same or growing has been the Inworld's part. Let's see, what else? Avination, Aviworlds are still down. Avination is the other big commercial grid out there. They're moving servers. They've been moving servers for more than a month now. And I haven't been able to get an update as to when that's going to be completed. It's run by an Open Sim core developer, Melanie Thilker. So that's kind of a shame to see that go. And Zeta Worlds had a cleanup. They're the open free to connect grid owned by ZetaMex, and they just had a little cleanup of dead inactive regions on their map. So that dropped the numbers quite a bit too. Then I had to remove A-Life virtual stats from the grid.
Yes.
And see, their active user numbers shot up this summer. They're like over 1,500 active users, which is huge. That's in the ballpark of OS Grid and Great Canadian Grid and other big, happy, popular, happening grids. And I'm like, well, this is really surprising because I've never heard of this grid. But maybe, they have some niche things going on. So I contacted the owners to explain this. And they had a good story. They were doing a marketing campaign. They were giving away various things. They had a region promotion. I'm like, okay, I can see that. I've seen their marketing posts. Okay, maybe I can buy that.
Yeah, but
actual
users?
Yeah, so now normally when I ask a grid about stats that don't make a lot of sense, they either say, whoops, sorry, that was a mistake, server error, and they fix those stats, or else they don't respond to me at all, and I just quietly take the stats off the database, and this doesn't turn into a story. But in this particular case, they really doubled down on those stats. They, really said, "Oh, we're promoting this, and this is really huge," and they made a big thing about how their grid was vibrant and attractive, and I added them to the story. Magnus Binder is a developer. He's donated patches to OpenSim. He's a former university professor, and he does coding work for internet-related infrastructure projects in Europe. And he has this database that, on a daily basis, that goes out and collects stats from statistics. Not just on a daily basis, but on an hourly, minutely basis.
30 minutes.
In other words, it can,
30 minutes.
In other words, it can scan for the fibs.
Yeah, and so when he said, it's really suspicious. On this particular day, within the course of 30 minutes, the number of active users went up by 400, and the number of registered users went up by 1,000. Now, it is extremely unusual, to put it mildly, that 1,000 new people would register accounts all within the same half hour, and not any time before or after. And this happened several times throughout the grid's history, and he sent me the raw data for this. And I asked the grid owners to respond to this, and they responded by saying, no, we're fine. Our numbers are good. I'm like, okay. Because, if they said, oh, yeah, a mistake, we're sorry, again, I would have just taken it down, wouldn't have made a story about it. But they said, no, it's really fine. They tripled down on their stats. And I'm like, okay, well, can you point me to all these missing regions? Where are they? And they said, oh, they're there, but we can't show them to you. I'm like, okay. Can you point me? There's supposed to be 50 people on this grid right now, but there's nobody on the grid. Can you tell me where those people are? And the grid owner said, oh, yeah, they're there, but I can't tell you where they are. Okay. Okay.
Haven't you got a console?
I have better. I have a web page.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe do all these 1,500 users, do they have Facebook posts, a Google Plus group, forums where they're discussing all these hot events that they're attending? And he said, yes, but I'm not allowed to give you that information. Like,
yeah, I think we've got the drift. I think we've got the drift.
And that's the point at which I said, there's a story there, and this is just, and now some readers took that to mean, oh, all OpenSim stats are faked. But that's the wrong conclusion to reach from this. The conclusion you should reach from this is that if you put out fake stats, you will be caught.
Yeah.
There are people watching for this, not just your competitors, of which several people immediately emailed me saying, are you sure about those A-Life stats? Because there's nobody there. I was just there. I was there for a whole day yesterday. Not a single other person was there.
Yeah.
So people were emailing me, and then Magnus sent me the actual data. And so to me, this lesson is, people do look at stats to see what's popular, to see what's growing, to see what's hot, because you want to go where other people are. It's a social world. You want to go where all the hot stuff is, where the cool events are. So you and with 300 grids, it's so easy to get lost in OpenSim. And seeing a list that says Inworld is popular, OS Grid is popular, Kitely is popular, gives you a place to start. And it also gives you a news report that can come out that keeps OpenSim in the news. If you Google OpenSim, go to OpenSim News, Google News, and Google OpenSim, these are some of the, there's nothing else that comes up except Hypergrid Business.
Okay.
I think there's more things out there about this. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why I do this. And that's what happened with A-Life. And that's the story there. And that is the last of my Hypergrid news.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you can't follow the dots, you can't connect the dots. I think is the message there. And you might better get away with it for a week or something. But bear in mind.
Well, we have seen it before, haven't we, Maria?
Yes. Yes. And in fact, one of the people who criticized the stats, Marie, paid too much attention to the stats. And I'm not going to, go into detail here, but they were caught making up their stats.
Yeah.
And they admitted it. They said, oh, yeah, we make up our stats. Like, what?
What at the end of the day, just what is the point? But never mind. Okay, well, while I've got my Metaworld news feed open, blog.lighthousepoint.co.uk. This is a blog from an avatar called Leighton Marjoram. She's in the UK here. She had a blog called Craft Store and Sinus Regions on Craft Grid. She does these occasional little reports, which I suppose are a little bit like Hyperica, sort of, just give you a quick show of different destinations. And Mine There Always, another avatar, has a blog called Mine There, MINETHERE.blogspot.com. And it's called Hyperverse Destinations, and does a sort of similar thing. And there was one rather intriguing one from there 4 days ago, which oh yes, and while I'm on high fidelity, as well as the video of Philip talking I mentioned, I think there's been about 3 different YouTube things published by High Fidelity. I'm sure you can look them up directly on YouTube or find the links in my feed. That they published recently, and I was absolutely fascinated by one because it seems evident from what has been said now that pretty much all High Fidelity is going to be open source except for the domain names, the marketplace, and apparently a trust system. In other words, not so much control of the asset servers, but a trust system database where you'll be able to identify creators of things, you'll be able to register your own created content, as it were, like your proprietary ownership of it, and most of the rest being open source. But when it comes to Marketplace, one of their movies was actually rather good because it showed an avatar, I think it was Emily actually who works there, literally walking to a table. It's got a lot more photorealistic, I have to say, picking up an iPad, right, and opening the iPad, and the iPad immediately opened Hyperlet's Marketplace. Where, she clicked on Marketplace and she was able to do all the buying, or well, it was actually at the moment you don't buy anything, you just get it. And she was able to do all the Marketplace transactions holding this iPad in her hand and using her other hand to press on things, just like you might do on eBay on an iPad, and then stuff instantly delivered and rezzed in front of them Inworld. And there was something tactile and just so nice about that. I thought, if I could do that here, I'm sure I could make a prim and put the Marketplace on it and hold it in my hand like a tablet. But there was something just so fluid and intuitive about what was going on here. It didn't feel like the cumbersome thing of bringing up a web page Inworld and that stuff. So I thought that was a really nifty little demo of what they're doing. Also, Philip did make it quite clear in the week that they hope to move to a beta soon, but they are nowhere near a public release of anything. Although it is open to anybody in alpha and eventually beta. So moving on from that, Melbourne's right, I'll forget about. I'll get ready to just run a highlight of my tweets, my Twitter feed. But before that, I'm just going to switch to James, who hasn't got a word in edgeways much today. James, developer meetups and news. Anything happening there?
Yeah, well, it was actually pretty quiet office hours this week. I think a lot of the discussion really was still talking about, in some ways, guidance or cooperation of Open Simulator in general, which of course is very very topical right now. A little bit of discussion, technical discussion about doing more high prim scripts for load testing on regions. And then another issue about avatars not when a new avatar is created, not winding up at the correct location. But really, it was interesting because there was a participant from Kitely who was really interested in talking about the future of Open Simulator. And so this is a conversation coming from, I think, several directions. And so quite an exciting time. I just want to say again, the notes that I take are from a meeting. It's an open to everybody meeting, office hours for Open Simulator developers, and it's every Tuesday at noon, at 11:30 on the Open Simulator grid. And again, it's interesting time. There seems to be a lot of shuffling around organizationally, or at least questioning.
Yes, I'm wondering if the Open Sim core devs are slightly getting a kick up the pants. Huh? No, that's the wrong phrase. I shouldn't say such things. It is maybe they are beginning to feel there's changes in the air, changes afoot that they need to wake up. There's
definitely awareness. There's definitely a strong awareness of it, and it's. I think it's too early to say anything, but the discussion about what Selby Evans, Thinker Evans has been proposing with some funding is definitely getting a lot of attention.
Right, which is actually another strand too.
Yep.
Of very interesting. Now I was talking to Steve, who's part of that earlier, but he's also part of Moses, so he seems to be part of everything. I can't talk. Hasn't got an NDA to talk about any of them. Okay, right. Well, that's good. Okay, so if you're eager for news, links, tips, and stuff like that throughout the week, you can follow me at twitter.com/malbones, or one word. That's my main feed. Hypergrid stuff I also publish at twitter.com Metaworld News, and I also have a feed twitter.com/malbones_writer, which is my Second Life avatar name, and you'll find machinima, glossy magazines, and some Second Life arts and destinations there, very specifically. But to my main feed, which is simply Malbones, or one word, at twitter.com. and quite a lot this week. And because of time, I'm not going to actually open anything if I can help it. I'm just going to summarize a few things. There's a very nice post today, a site called mynorthwest.com. That's my as in possess, north as in north, and west as in west, presumably Northwest America. That's where Torah is. Blog post is entitled "The Trippiest Conversation You'll Hear All Day," and it's written by somebody whose first paragraph says he's not a science fiction fan, he's never seen Star Trek, he's never watched Star Wars or The Matrix or any virtual reality sci-fi show. He's never had any interest in anything with a sci-fi theme, and he doesn't know why. That's why he's fascinated by something he's just discovered called virtual reality. Unless, well, it's a long enough article. He has clearly discovered it and done some research into it and stuff. So quite a good little article, including some interview bits where he's found people to interview. So that is at a site called mynorthwest.com. Open Simulator Metaverse, that was this morning too. Oh, that just appears to be, don't know if anybody else here knows about that. This seems to be an advert today for release of Open Sim version 090.188b503, which is available for download. The post is today, so I presume the download is something that went up today.
I missed that.
Right, okay, it literally was 3 hours before I opened the iPad here, so it was within 3 hours of us coming on air, actually. Right, using virtual reality to explore the inner world of a plant cell. This is at Science WA. So science and then the letters WA, or one word, .net.or.au. And this is a newly launched app. It's an iPhone type app, which allows you to explore the inner workings of a plant cell. Educational app, basically. And it's got quite a lot of information in the article about the different ways in which you can use it, other than just stare at the innards of a plant. Something else I came up this morning too, at VentureBeat. Sony's Anywhere VR brings your smartphone into PlayStation VR. Apparently, I don't know where you have to have a Sony make of smartphone to do this, but Anywhere VR, it loads on your PlayStation VR as a virtual environment, but it connects your mobile phone into the environment. So instead of picking up your mobile phone, you'll be able to pick it up with your avatar and use it within the Inworld environment. Presumably lounging around on a city somewhere watching PlayStation VR. Sounds like a interesting way of getting at your phone if you don't want to get up and walk to wherever you left it. Right. Mixed reality studio. This was some Hypergrid business. There's David sent a post up about a mixed reality studio with gesture recognition being launched in Europe. I think I covered that earlier in the week. Videos again. VR review, which is a short sort of 4 or 5 minute highlight of the news in video form, was up today. You'll find that, can't see the link here, it's called Virtual Reality News anyway. Call for proposals for Open Simulator, reminder again. Upload VR report on VR studios bringing wireless VR entertainment centers to Europe. These are kind of room-sized multiplayer venues. Although all the I guess all the headsets and stuff is connected wirelessly, so you'll be able to go to all these big things without any wires to trip over. The future of human-computer interaction will be multimodal. This is an article at TechCrunch. All this relates to VR and interfacing in general, by the way. So without opening them, I can assure you of that. As I said, Hyperica.com has a few new entries this week. Sci-fi ushers in VR's halcyon days. This is an article at a site called DramaQuarterly.com, and they're talking about television storytelling moving into new territory. Apparently, Halcyon is a new, sort of science fiction series on the Sci-Fi Channel, or whatever sci-fi is, a producer or channel, something like that. And it's a crime drama described as the first ever hybrid VR scripted series. And I actually rather like the sound of the way they've done this. Apparently it's a bit more like way back many years ago, CSI opened up a whole lot of servers on Second Life and, tried to get their television viewers into Second Life to play detective, basically. Well, apparently this, I will open this briefly if I can, so I don't get my numbers wrong. I think this is actually something like a 12 episode no, it's a 15-part police procedural. But only 10 of the episodes will be the standard linear sort of thing you're used to watching on television. And the remaining 5 episodes will be VR exclusive episodes. But the drawback is you will need an Oculus Rift or a Gear VR to actually watch them. But I think the idea is you will take part. You will be a user participant in the VR episodes, whereas the other episodes will be normal. And they do assure viewers who haven't got a VR kit that they will do a summary of what happened in the VR episodes or when you tune into normal episodes. But that does sound to me, I'm very questioning of all storytelling we know, with the possible exception of a theatre, is always delivered within the frame. And I'm endlessly puzzling here in my downtime how on earth you can actually tell a decent narrative of any Hollywood length in VR. And I just can't come up with the right solutions. But it seems to me if you are doing television or movies, then maybe treating VR as a component of the whole experience rather than try and work on something that's going to be a full experience in itself might be the way to go, especially with television. So I thought that was quite interesting. It shows a bit of intelligence in the way they're sort of adopting it, so to speak. Gosh, more Hyperica. Yeah, Hyperica was busy this week, wasn't it, Maria? How WebVR will make
people can submit new destinations in Hyperica, and I finally sat down and I've been going through trying to get through some of the backlog.
Right, that figures, and they all came up at once, of course. Very good, very good. So more destinations than Maria. How WebVR will make virtual reality massively available. This was an article at VentureBeat. And Insta VR, they're called, have got $2 million American in funding for a simple VR app publishing platform. I think the idea of this is to be like a template site where they'll give you an easy way to make your own VR apps to then publish on Google or Apple or wherever you want to put your app. You had another post from David again during the week. It was a good post. Summer 2016 was big with VR news, he wrote. A type of good business. That was more of a summary article, but always good to have. And I did mention Arch Virtual and John Bouchard's architectural thing earlier. On YouTube, we have Arch Virtual Early Access Demo Beta number 1. And that's the one I mentioned earlier, where he seems to have created a Unity subset for architects to use, building in that world. Eye tracking virtuality headset Fove. They've released their full specs and a pre-order date. That's another one of the newer candidates we've covered for quite a bit there in the past. I mentioned Gore and Moore. Right, I'm going to just bypassing someone here. Actually, you've got to read this one. virtualitytimes.com. I'm not going to open it, but you've got to read it. It's called Including Our Noses in the VR World. And Ubisoft, a French game publisher, has unveiled Nostulus Rift. Yes, Nostulus Rift. And it's a headset which can immerse its user into the game using smells.
David wrote about it. It's a virtual fart simulator.
What did you just say?
David wrote about it in his summary of summer VR news. It is a virtual fart simulator.
Is that all?
Virtual farts, yes.
Do they have smell-o-vision, or is it just like farts?
It's
It's
just
fart.
farts.
I think it's just farts.
Yep.
Oh, that.
Because that's the one thing you're missing in virtual reality. Social VR needs farts.
Oh,
That's how
And
you know you're really
smell-o-vision.
there.
I mean, what's the point of a fart with no smelling?
No, I know there is, was some years ago, really before the virtual reality thing took off. There are devices you can get. I don't think they ever took off, which are like what's the word? Aromatherapy. Basically, they're like a device, and it has a certain mixture of oils. And you can actually create a whole myriad of smells from these by combining these different oils, and electronically the different oils were triggered. I don't know how, maybe they bounced the molecules to create the smell. And they could actually get a wide range of real world smells by just using these key, it's like printing inks to create full color printing. They just had these key oils that were able to, in the right mixes, generate several hundred different smells. And I have to say that that was what I'm looking forward to, a little smelling pot under my monitor. So when I'm walking in the grass, I can smell grass and stuff like that. Anyway, moving on. We don't have that much time. We have unlimited time, but we don't want to be here for it. Right, hands-on with V-Reel's VR live streaming system and a Q&A with CEO Todd Hooper. This is a road to VR.com. It was recorded at the PAX West conference last week. I reposted a nice little post from Joyce Betancourt, Rhiannon Chenois, Medium.com, non-profit commons VR for good. She did a little article on Medium there. VR Scout midweek published its The Week in VR review, which they do every week, which is a good place to just get a rough summary of what's going on if you don't have time to follow all the kind of links that I read out. Virtual reality may help you control your dreams. This article was a site called The Atlantic. The Atlantic is quite a big magazine in the States, I believe.
Still is.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I mean, I've heard of it, basically, is what I mean. So, always good to see this stuff getting mainstream press, even though, once again, they're all obsessed with headsets. But anyway, control your dreams with virtual reality. Virtual reality today center stage at the Tokyo Game Show. This was a post at Bloomberg.com. Bloomberg spelled B-E-R-G at the end. I did not. I really wasn't going to insult my readers by posting about it, but there was one post that was appearing everywhere at the Tokyo Game Show where yeah, Maria, I know this. You must know this. They had to shut down one of the VR exhibits because men were putting headsets on and they were touching the chests and possibly other parts of the mannequins in ways which even in Tokyo weren't considered suitable.
They didn't. I think they just forbade the touching of the boobs. I don't think they shut down the whole exhibit. Yeah,
I heard there was so many crowds involved that they actually had to close the thing down.
Yeah.
Men were lining up to touch the boobs of the mannequins while they were in their VR. And
So
of course, while they were in VR, it wasn't a mannequin, was it?
So basically, it's a giant doll, human-sized doll, and you have a virtual reality headset. And when you have the headset on, instead of seeing the doll, you're seeing like an avatar that is interacting with you.
Yeah.
So instead of like just having a doll in front of you, which you can touch, you also have the visual and the sounds of a real human person or a cartoon avatar, depending on what your VR simulation is. And so this kind of convinced people to start getting handsy. I would have a hard time, not, squeezing some stuff.
They say sex sells.
Just out of curiosity, just purely out of journalistic curiosity, on behalf of my readers, I would want to do some squeezing, but that's just me. I'm sure other people have more self-control, but apparently not at this conference. So
Oh, well, it's a game show. Come on, that's not quite a conference, is it? But it makes you wonder. I mean, how tactile were the mannequins? Were they made of flexible materials, and did it feel like skin and
silicone?
They have
Silicone.
Or was it hairy in places? And never mind.
Anyway.
Right? Yes. So
Well, you're going too far with this. Oh my God.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, shut down. Right. Here is why virtual reality will change everything, and not what I was just talking about. No, this is a post. This is a post at medium.com again. The same place Joyce posted earlier. This, however, is written by Robert Scoble, of all people. I keep finding him on my contacts list. I have no idea how he got there. I think from before he was Robert Scoble, so to speak. But anyway, very good one because he's described as being at the forefront of technological trends in Silicon Valley his entire life, and he's now dedicating all of his time to virtual mixed reality. And basically, the post at Medium tells you all about that. Another thing I've decided I actually want to try and see, because I think you can just download it for free. It's probably on Google Play, if not iOS. Google have joined up with the remaining members of the Queen rock band to do a virtual interactive version of Bohemian Rhapsody, which of course is very famous. It was a rock video before they had rock videos, and apparently it's very good. They have taken full advantage of the full 360 viewing of movements and stuff, and it's recommended people will actually want to experience it several times because there's so much going on in it that one view, it's like storytelling in the frame. One viewing, you are almost inevitably going to miss half of what's there. So the idea is you go in several times and get a chance to look in all directions while you're experiencing it. And it's the visuals look absolutely lovely. It doesn't remind me in any way of the rock video, though apparently they've used some footage from that as sort of inset screens in the environment in places. I can tell you that many years ago I was involved with an arts production company, and we did, or not me personally, but some of our artists and stuff did work with Queen, and they were one of those bands that was always in full control of their media, not only their music videos and their stage presence and everything else, but they were less, some bands were always driven by the record company saying, oh, you got to do a video, or you got to do this, and they would look for something that was trending. Whereas the guys from Queen were always out there trying to find something really, really new to pioneer. And I think it shows in what Brian May and co have done with this one. Right, Leap Motion's Weightless is intuitive reality at its best. If you have a Leap Motion, you can download from their app store something called Weightless, and it allows you to play using your Leap Motion, sensing your hands, and hurl projectiles at floating targets in zero gravity. Great fun. You'll find that post about that at inverse.com, INVERSC.com. And another game, I don't do many of these, but posted at roadtovr.com. A game called Luna, described as a deep game. It's a narrative puzzler, which means I probably could play it without getting shot in the first frame. And but it's actually all about recovering from grief and trauma. So although it is a game, it has got a very serious aspect to it. And they demoed it at PAX West this week, but I think it's actually available now. Right, more darn headsets. No headset. They're all the same inside. Who cares? Sorry, Maria's about to intervene. Okay, some have lenses, some have two lenses, some have up-down lenses, some have. Yeah, never mind. Right, Google Arts and Culture's VR tour takes you inside the British Prime Minister's home. Here's another one for you Brits. You can read all about it at a site called Digital Trends. And it's not every day you're able to check into number 10 Downing Street, basically, but now you can in VR. You can have a walk around and see all the former prime ministers. I gather Theresa May's portrait is not on the wall. Yes, she hasn't been around long enough, I guess. But, walk around. Apparently, both the domestic areas and the formal areas. So, actually see what the upstairs flats look like. Right. Virtuality Times reports on a VR 2020 summit held next October the 17th in New York City. I guess they're looking ahead. I presume by next October, they don't mean next week, or 2 weeks or 3. VR Festival Binge Watch announces award judging panel. That's at virtuality-news.net. All these sites are good places to pop in and read all their articles, so I'll just get the highlights here. Virtuality and the mind, anxiety. Can VR stop us worrying so much? Interesting here. I mean, when we talk about immersion and the appeal of just virtual worlds, even on a 2D screen, a lot of it is a distractive thing. We can focus on living in an alternative world, so to speak. We're not out of touch with the real world, but maybe we divert our minds to stop us about worrying about things in the real world or stuff. So does VR work as a cure for worry? I suppose is the real summary of that article. Interesting, another post also at vrfocus.com. And research suggests that if you've been, this is probably of interest to us, although I've never been any good at gaming, where it's click and shoot stuff. If you've been gaming for a long time, there is actually a chance that you will experience the most presence in virtuality. And somebody called Dr. Matthew Coxon of York St. John University has been researching all this, and I actually suspect this may be the case because we talk about VR headsets and everything here, but I mean we've got 15 years of experience in 2D, 3D worlds, but on 2D screens. And obviously before that, there were, computer games. I didn't play many, but I loved Myst. I could say I've got used to the various metaphors of gaming and immersive worlds and, inhabited virtual worlds. And therefore, I probably get the most experience out of the new developments as they happen. I suppose it's like, evolving with the tech as opposed to jumping in from nowhere. So they may have a point. The people who are being seduced to try out this new VR technology may not really be comfortable if they've never had any experience of games or these worlds in their past. So interesting. These little things can be key deciders in the arrival of ubiquity, shall we say.
See? I'm telling you, the metaverse. We all have to get everybody into the metaverse. Really?
Yeah, if they don't come here first, they don't stand a chance with those headsets.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's our rant for the week. Don't buy a headset till you've tried Open Sim. Right.
Or Inworld. Don't forget Inworld.
Well, Inworld is sort of Open Sim. I didn't say Hypergrid and exclude you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yay!
Yeah. See, I'm being sort of careful. Right. Open Sim call for proposals. Do it, folks. Just do it. VR in education, moving the classroom to Mars and other field trips. This was actually, this is a post to the site called brighttalk.com. So it's bright as in bright light and then talk as in nattering, or one word, brighttalk.com. And the article is actually written by David Burden from a company called Dayton Limited in the UK here. So it's all VR, really. That's how you move the classroom to the places you want to go. It's called VR. I have no idea what that link was, so I won't bother mentioning it. VR Strategy Conference to focus on monetization. That actually was a retweet from Maria, so you probably know where that points to, Maria.
Yes, I do. Right.
Project Empathy is tackling criminal justice reform with virtuality. No, this is not the courtroom system. It's another aspect of the criminal justice system. And just as the way movies provide an escape from reality, virtual reality can take people into all sorts of alternative scenarios. And they believe that they can take people like criminals of various ilks and use emphatic techniques on them by putting them in virtual reality to make them better people or something like that. You get the drift. HuffPost UK, I suppose the Natural History Museum, this is in Britain here, and Google have just released 300,000 digital specimens online. So if you feel like populating your Open Sim with dinosaurs and stuff like that, you can go and presumably download a mesh and upload them to your world. I think it is all free access and copyable. Maybe it's a mix of some and some not. We'll see anyway. Right, scanning through. Tech company aims to make virtual reality accessible for all. Isn't that a dream? It's a company called Full Dive, and their goal is to be a social platform for all VR content. It sounds to me like more like a strategy has become a Facebook, but instead of text and pictures, have VR content in it rather than create any of their own. But you might want to check out that article. Is VOA new? Sorry. Yep.
They have a Portal app. They also have a Durvis Dive headset, one of the earliest ones on the market. But where they're best known for is their Full Dive app. And this app is kind of like gives you it's basically recommendations for other virtual reality apps is what it really is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a gateway to VR content rather than a platform in its own right, really. Okay, if you want to read more about that, it's VOA News, all one word, voanews.com. Virtual reality content gains traction and big dollars flow into ad tech players. That's at Ad Week. That's the commercial stuff. Oh, yes, and a new one. This is an article at a site called Quartz, Quartz. This high-tech suit lets you feel things in virtual reality. It's not the first, and it certainly won't be the last, but this is... students at the London's Royal College of Art have created. This is a really obvious name, isn't it? It's like calling a grid virtual something. Skinterface. If you wish to go down to your local boutique and don't fancy a skirt or a dress or a pair of trousers, you can actually maybe buy a Skinterface. This is the way the future is going, folks. I want that model of Skinterface, please, but can I have pink blobs on the lemon, please? I don't know. You get the idea. But apparently the reviews are very good, so you can look at that up and subsequent links at Quartz. Auto sales, that was Mario, actually. Virtual Reality Los Angeles 2017 Expo has been, they've announced the dates, and they've also announced that it's going to be greatly expanded, about 12 times the size of last year's, and it's happening on April the 14th and April the 15th next year. So if you're in Los Angeles and like hardware toys, that's the place to be, I guess. Westminster Law students. This is the University of Westminster in the UK here again. The PR says they're trying to appeal to the Pokemon Go generation of criminal law students. They decided it's not really virtual reality, it's augmented reality like the Pokemon Go. They've apparently devised this system for getting law students who are studying crime to immerse themselves in case studies using VR headsets. So everybody's using them, and in fact, I think the first things where they really are going to play out are in things like education and documentary and experiential things rather than the Hollywood stuff. Right, Future Sounds Total Motion gives you a platform and a seat for its VR simulators. That's the digital trends. How virtual reality could help stop the next Ebola outbreak. Here's another one where they want to train clinicians and things using simulators, so that if there is a viral outbreak of some sort, the various authorities will have virtual experience, and that will give them an advantage when the real thing happens, or hopefully it doesn't happen. And that article is a next nextgov.com, and that is an American government site. This week in virtuality on the 12th of September, a roundup this time published at medium.com on that was 4 days ago. Okay, I'm actually getting a lot of articles on Medium about virtuality at the moment, and Medium actually does tend to be an article site rather than just a simple blog post, so they tend to be quite meaty. Shopping for your next house in VR, that's at vrscout.com. Did the Natural History Museum. Of incidental interest, if you have an iPad or an iPod or an iPhone, Google's Cardboard Camera has actually been released as an iOS app this week, and it works with the new iOS 10, which means you can actually film and make your own VR experiences. It was previously only on Android. So iOS, we Apple people have it at last. And your spatial skills may relate to your VR experience, they suggest. There's an awful lot. Every time something becomes fashionable, an awful lot of studies suddenly start appearing, don't they? That must be where the grant money is. Oh, do a study for us. Anyway, it looks at existing real world, organic world spatial skills and how those will relate to your experience in VR. And that's supposed to virtuality-news.net. And that's it. There are a few videos from the Outworlds grid, video of last week's show, obviously, various videos in the stream there of examples too. So twitter.com/Malbones, and I'm posting links to various places tangentially connected to virtual worlds and VR interface tech throughout the week. With that, I'm going to move us back. Any comments on anything I covered there, by the way, especially from you, Ellie? Any thoughts on anything I mentioned?
I'm still reeling over the skin-tastic or skin.
Yeah. Skinterface.
That's it.
Yikes.
Yeah. That's still. And that combined with the Japan conference with the touching.
Yeah.
I'm having some really just wow moments over here. Just kind of like
quick,
Okay,
run out, register the domain, skinterface.com.
wow.
Actually, all you need, instead of a mannequin, it needs to be a woman in a skinterface, and then you need to be wearing a skinterface with your helmet and.
Wait, have you guys seen that underwear that's for sale? So, like, okay, if your partner is across the world or whatever, you can Skype, and you wear the underwear and the bra, and you can like touch each other.
Yeah, we covered that. We
Yeah,
covered that
yeah.
because a year or more ago. In fact, I'm surprised
It has a name, actually.
it hasn't really taken off. It's based in Australia. So maybe it's big in Australia, but I would have actually thought, I would have thought that would have been bigger than all these people with their sex toys and virtuality.
I've seen it. I've seen the vibrating panties show up in sitcoms repeatedly, where some woman is wearing vibrating panties and somebody else has the remote control for them, and comic hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
I've heard a name for this whole concept, and it's the name I've heard is called teledildonics.
That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a dildo, but it's called teledildonics. Yes,
right.
that's the word.
In concept, yeah.
I can imagine. I would logically. I mean, maybe I'm different, but logically, that sort of thing would attract me more than these almost masturbatory type sex toys things, which just seem a bit sad. Whereas something that actually is about communication and your partner and stuff like that. I mean, and given that some couples are thousands of miles away working or something, and are apart in a week or something like that, it just would seem to add to the Skype call or something like that. So I'm pretty neutral on it really at my age, but the idea of something like that taking off would seem to me to be a much greater market than the standard sex toys of solo efforts.
That's a great way of putting it, Mel. Solo effort.
Yeah, I'm struggling for words here. I should just leave it to Maria. She's the
You've got to
expert.
be the first British guy I've ever known to actually have to struggle for words, because usually the British have me rolling with all this stuff because they just are so upfront about it. Here you go, blah. And I'm like, all right then.
Oh no, I'm fairly upfront. I'm just trying to sort of be delicate and
Be polite. I got it.
and be A, I'm on air, and B, I'm neutral. Because you often come up with the obvious thing, and everybody thinks of that obvious thing, whereas I want to make it a category, if you see what I mean. That's my excuse
Well,
anyway. And
I'm definitely not neutral. I believe that all these applications are going to drive the adoption of VR hardware, which
Yep.
will allow the prices to drop and the usability to improve, which will help all of us, even those of us who are not part of this particular demographic.
Yep.
And I'm
I
not
agree.
saying whether I am or not.
well, we know already. Come on, the degree to which you
She
talk
wants
about,
to touch. She
the-
wants to
the-
squeeze.
yeah, she said it already. She wanted to be
Right?
the guy. She wanted to be the guy doing that squeezing in Japan.
From
For
a
her
purely
readers.
journalistic reporting
Right.
perspective.
Oh,
For
of
the
course.
benefit of my readers, for our
Uh-huh.
readers.
Of course.
We
it's
totally
all-
about my
understand, Maria.
readers.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's all in the pursuit of genuine research. How
Yes,
can
yes,
I
and
tell
it's all
if I
tax
can't-
deductible.
I have to have a go. I can't tell you about it, can I?
Okay, so who's going to get Maria the Skinterface?
I think the manufacturers are going to send me a free demo copy.
If there's a Kickstarter, I would definitely tell you that you need to go for it.
I'd have to. I've closed it now. I'd have to actually open the link to that. It was actually students at the Royal College of Art here in London who've created it.
They
so-
actually have a website,
Yeah.
skinterface.co.uk.
Oh,
Yay.
wonderful! Right,
Somebody already
okay.
got the domain. Darn.
Well, I'm knowing art students. They probably made the website before they did the device.
Oh,
That is
it's a website too.
That's
Really
good.
nice.
Really nice.
No, interface. The kit looks good too. They're art students. They know what they're doing on the aesthetics.
Yeah, it looks
so,
really good. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry that I was laughing at them.
Well, no, it's the name, but actually, when I think about it, it's a good name.
I was thinking about it in conjunction with the Touch and Squeezing Japan conference. The whole thing just sort of blew my mind when you really start to boil it. It's like taking Utherverse and putting it on steroids in virtual reality, man. Hello.
Yeah,
I believe Utherverse is doing that. Yes.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about Utherverse. Once a year they hold a virtuality conference in Utherverse. Yet the rest of the time it's just Utherverse. The two don't seem to gel.
Right?
I haven't gotten any updates from them lately. They used to be pretty big, and they had a virtual reality viewer under development. But then I kind of haven't heard anything from them, and they haven't responded back. I asked for the Curio was their browser. I've emailed them, and I haven't gotten anything back from either the CEO, who I've been in touch with before, or the PR people. So I've tried. I will try again. But doesn't seem to be that they're doing a big marketing thing anymore. Because I don't know who else besides me really covers them seriously.
Well, okay, so interesting little tidbit about Utherverse last year. We got what I would call a cease and desist letter. It was actually basically a letter from another company that Utherverse had, quote, licensed their software for their platform. And they were demanding that we pay for a licensing fee to them. And that basically the technology that we were using was basically their technology that they basically developed, and that now Utherverse was licensed. They gave me this whole spiel about this.
Oh, God.
And oddly enough, so I had to have an attorney obviously involved, and we had to tell them point blank, no. We haven't heard back from them. But I'm wondering, because they did very pointedly say Utherverse had paid for the licensing, et cetera. So I'm wondering if maybe they got sort of scammed out of some money. I don't know.
That sounds like patent trolls of some sort, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
pretty much was. Yeah, and
What they do is they send these mass emails hoping somebody bites.
but Uthaverse had it. They had it on their website that they had licensed the software through them.
Mm.
It may be,
That's-
it could be, patent troll or not. It could be a genuine instance of a company that actually did have a prototype virtual world platform, and Uthaverse did licenses to build theirs way back when. But the key to that will be how
It's
far
still
back
there.
and
Virtual
how.
World. It's Virtual World is a registered trademark of virtualworld.com and is used with permission. That's what they went after us for.
Oh no, that is daft. I mean, are there the one that's in Second Life?
Then
If they-
virtualworld.com. Yeah, it was really this was really weird. And when I went to the virtualworld.com, I mean, it was because I had to talk to the attorney, obviously. Basically, there was just like I was like, "Are you kidding me? Seriously, this is what they're going to try to do? This whole thing is just not even like, yeah, it's like nothing."
Well, sounds
Well,
like
I do know that Otherverse has been trying to license their platform to other people.
I wonder if this was part of that. I don't
and
know.
they haven't been able to get particularly far with it. Um, so I want to track this down because this is company I can't figure out if it's associated with Otherverse or not. I do know they have the virtual world web that they're trying to get going. They had several things they were trying to push that didn't make any practical sense at all. And they don't have any real world contact information here on this site. But thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah, no
Because
problem.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, we had to respond very strongly in our letter return that we were not going to be licensing anything.
Right.
Blasted trolls. Okay, Maria, we're on the final leg, so you can.
I will be very,
yeah.
very quick. I'll just run through
You can-
these.
Yeah.
There's
okay.
going to be chess championship match will be broadcast in VR, broadcast in 360-degree virtual reality, and in a regular browser as well. And they are selling access to this. And there's going to be a 360-degree video stream as well. So a lot of movement in that direction. You mentioned the conference on monetization. That's the Greenlight Insights. Greenlight's one of the top analyst research firms covering virtual reality development. This is going to be in November in San Francisco. And they're focusing on how to make money from virtual reality. Always a hot topic for me personally. Unity is organizing a series of events in the US and Canada to try to get women into game development,
Nice.
which I'm totally in favor of. Good for them. This is young women to get them into the STEM fields. So I applaud them for doing that. We've got a column saying how virtual reality is going to help auto sales through not just virtual test drives, but training as well. Can help people learn how something like, say, self-driving cars work, which is not something I had previously thought about. Xiaomi is a big Chinese manufacturer of all sorts of consumer devices. They just put out their Xiaomi VR virtual reality headset that's been getting a lot of publicity, and I got a review copy of it, and it wasn't that great. It's a weird design. It's very lightweight, kind of like a scuba diving suit kind of fabric, and it's got a zipper all around the edge of it, which is kind of really weird. It's annoying to use. It's a bad headset. It does not have adjustable lenses. It does have a touch button, but in everything else, the field of view isn't that great. So I do not recommend that people buy it. I thought it was worth priced too high for the features that it had. It cost about $17-20. So I'm not recommending it, but it does have a button. So if you have an iPhone, this is something that you might want to consider, because iPhones don't work with external controllers. You already mentioned the roundup of VR news from this summer, a lot of it out there. A lot of studios offering virtual reality filming popping up all over the place. This is a really hot growth area. that are filming not just VR videos, but combining the 360-degree video with computer-generated virtual environments. So they're putting a real actor inside a virtual space, which is really cool. So for example, if I was filming an ad for my commercial grid, I might do that, have an actor inside a virtual reality space interacting with it to kind of show off some of the things that you can do. But that would cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's actually quite funny because you take what's the word, nascent technology, if you like, and before the technology is really quite matured, suddenly there are these people that are suddenly somehow qualified to train you in it, popping up and training courses everywhere for this technology that's coming but hasn't quite got here yet. That wasn't an example of that, but the number of training courses in VR that I see being posted that, just from the synopsis, that don't sound quite right. Yeah.
Well, we're going to see a lot more of them because you're going to need a lot of people. As more people do more marketing experiences VR, which are really cool because a viewer can be really cheap. You can give one away free to potential customers, and they get to go inside your thing and try your product and go and explore your world or whatever it is that you're trying to do for them. It's really powerful and very memorable. The VR marketing experiences that I have experienced stick with me a lot more than just the video that I saw because I felt more like I was in the middle of them. So I think we're gonna continue seeing a lot of it happening. IMAX, which has giant screens, movie theaters, they're going to begin the VR rollout of this year. They're going to add VR technology and experiences to their theaters. And when you get a ticket, you can see the movie and you can also do the experience as well. And they've partnered with the folks who do the Transformers movies. So could be a VR experience coming for Transformers as well. So if you're into Transformers, that might be interesting.
Yeah, that actually struck me as something that, because I was wondering what the hell is IMAX going to do with these headsets? They've got big screens anyway. Why put a headset on? But it's like that sci-fi series I mentioned. It's going to have 12 regular episodes and 4 VR ones. The idea that you would go to IMAX and see, in-the-face movie and then see an accompanying VR experience that goes with the movie does seem, a practical way to go, rather than try and VRize the entire movie, if you see what I mean. So
we are seeing some full-length VR movies coming out. Right now we have Careers in Mafia. No, Careers in Organized Crime is a full-length movie, and Jesus VR is a full-length movie that just hit the film festival circuit. It's coming out this Christmas.
Have you actually watched either of those? Do they in any way work?
I've seen a little preview of one, which seemed cool. I haven't seen the full Mafia Careers one.
Yeah, I was going to check that out.
The Jesus VR has been getting really, really bad reviews.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
But I have seen some short films that done in VR that some of them which were great, some of them not so great. But the marketing experiences for movies, some of those have been really, really good. For example, there was one with Pacific Rim where you're in the cockpit of the robot as the attacking whatever thing attacks you and eats the person next to you. And you actually feel like you're in the middle of this scene. Similarly, the Goosebumps movie had a little virtual reality scene where you're in a car as it's being chased by a giant praying mantis next to Jack Black. And Jack Black turns to you and talks, and it feels like he's talking to you personally.
Are you actually watching the movie in a viewer and then it suddenly transitions to the VR scene?
No, it's a separate marketing experience, separate from the movie.
Yeah.
They refilmed that scene specific for that experience in VR.
Sure.
And because it's different. So you are a passenger in this car next to Jack Black as things happen around you.
Sure.
or you are one of the soldiers inside the Pacific Rim robot as things happen around you.
Yeah.
So it requires a different kind of filming. You're actually one of the actors in the scene. It can be a very powerful marketing experience to tempt you into watching the whole movie once it comes out.
No, yeah, I'm absolutely sure. As a separate,
Yeah.
as annex experiences, it was, it is quite logical. I keep saying it, I shouldn't, but I'm just foxed about, the idea of a feature-length movie, which requires, we're used to a movie, let's say 100 minutes running time, average movie length, how do you maintain storytelling, engagement for that length of time and still have all the distractions that a 360 environment provides? I think that's going to be a real tough number, and I do want to watch that gangster mafia one day.
Well, the ones that I've seen that have worked well, like the Invasion short, that's on the Oculus system right now, it actually has visual cues that help you focus your attention to the right place. And the directors talked about this. You want something happening, like if something important is happening on the edge of your vision, you want to give the viewer a reason to look that way. Like maybe other characters are looking in that direction going, oh, and then you also turn your head to look to see where they're looking. So those kinds of things, you could incorporate those kind of cues. Sound also, if something's happening outside, to the left or to the right, you can have sound effects that also cause you to turn around and look in that direction. And a lot of horror experiences use that for really powerfully. So there's ways to do it.
It's just a matter of extending it into required, movie length narrative time. I mean, we get it in real life in theatre. You'll have a conversation on the right side of the stage that fades to black, as it were, and more characters appear on the left talking, and your head automatically moves. And to set, in a sense, they are guiding you around about 180 degrees. Of and the narrative is guiding you there, but the full 360. And then I was watching there was some New York event of a few years ago with John Bon Jovi performing that I saw on YouTube just a couple of days ago, and he's the band play about one bar on stage, and then John Bon Jovi's voice comes in. But he's at the back of the auditorium and he has to go down the platform all the way up, but there again, the audience, there's cameras on the audience, of course, immediately. It takes about a few minutes for people to suss. They can't find John Bon Jovi. And then finally there's a spotlight on and they all turn their heads and they're looking to the back and following him forward, because as you say, the cues are there. But, he doesn't do the whole gig like that. That's just the way of coming in. And I just worry about storytelling, about maintaining, say, your average 100-minute a narrative experience that somehow manages to employ maybe up to the Cinerama thing of a curved screen. You can have peripheral vision to left and right in a movie for sure, but the whole idea that you might really turn around and be focused on a path where distant from the narrative, I don't know, it's just puzzling. Tell me, before Maria continues, Ellie, have you actually got any, have you ever tried these Google Cardboard sets, or let alone maybe one of the Oculus type things?
No, David has, but I haven't had a chance to actually test any of them out yet.
Yeah.
Well, let me know if you want to send me one. I have a stack of them here. People have been seriously, people have been asking me. Occasionally grid owners will ask me to send them one. I'll say sure, I'll just send them out. Okay, so the last thing that I have is Doll Space VR. They are the leading current social VR platform. This is not a virtual environment in the sense that where users can create and modify their environment. They give you a bunch of rooms. And they might commercialize it at some point where companies can like buy a room and have it custom made. But right now you pretty much have a choice of rooms to go into. They have rearranged their interface around social interactivity. And this is something that I've been recommending that grids do for a long time. And of course, nobody pays attention to me. And that might be a good thing because I'm not always right. But anyway, so what they've done, instead of when you log in, instead of getting a choice of locations, what they do is they give you a choice of events. So these are the public events where your friends, these are the events that you can access where your friends are. And these are the public events that have the most people in them. So the idea is to connect users with other people as soon as possible. And that was very interesting. They've also added some features to help with other social things that could cause problems. For example, I experienced this when I attended an event. People next to me in the audience were louder than the speaker because they're closer to me because of their spatial voice, and they actually drowned out the speaker. So now you can mute the people around you. And they also have a feature to totally block other users. So if somebody is hounding you or harassing you, you can block them and they will totally disappear from your experience. It's as if they don't exist at all. You won't see them, you won't hear from them, which is a really, really a nice feature for personal safety. They've also added a bubble around you that you can have around yourself so people can't like come up and like grab your boobs and stuff, because that happens in a virtual environment and you don't want people to do that, because in virtual reality you feel like it's actually your boobs being grabbed.
I was thinking, you know, I can go to the system, you know, sit in, I can go to the Open Sim conference and 400 avatars there. And then I could block 399 of them and have the speeches and demos all to myself.
Yes,
Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Could have them all wear the skin interface as well.
Yeah, it would be a wonderful social experience. And nobody there.
Yep.
Never mind. I like it, yeah.
The cool thing about AltSpace VR is it's available for Gear VR, which is a $99 headset. The Gear VR is currently the best mobile VR headset out there, and it's actually usable. It's a social virtual experience. They've got spatial voice, they've got avatar motion, everything's in there. You can move your hands if you have a leap motion device or other motion gesture capture thing. So it's actually pretty good, actually pretty reasonable. The performance is decent. It's not great, it's decent. They have a click to teleport movement system, which means you don't get nauseous because there's no linear movement to make you sick. You kind of teleport from point to point just by touching the ground. So I like their latest improvements quite a bit. I've checked it out. You can't spend too much time in it because the Samsung Galaxy overheats really quickly, and during the summer when it's already hot, that was actually a problem.
And that's its other problem, is it's dependent on the particular smartphone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is very much so. But with the Gear VR, you can only use the Samsung smartphones, and they're either going to overheat or they're going to explode.
Well, yeah, I was going to say. I mean, my Android phone and my iPod both get very hot the moment I put them into the cardboard type viewer. You know, even for just 5 minutes. So I wouldn't want to keep them. And if I had a Samsung phone, I'd be scared shitless to even touch it. Because apparently it explodes of its own accord.
I would not want to wear an exploding smartphone on my face. Yikes. No.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Ellie, if you do happen to have a Samsung phone that does not explode, and have an opportunity to check out the Gear VR, that is a great way to get into VR without spending hundreds of dollars.
I think I'll stick with my iPhone.
Yeah.
It doesn't explode.
Yeah.
Now, what's actually remind us, Maria, there is a way, there used to be the Control-Alt-Del viewer, whatever it was called, but there are various ways that we can get into the worlds we already have on Open Sim.
Right now, if you want to experience Open Sim in virtual reality, you would use the Control-Alt Studio viewer. Yes, you would use that in combination with a system that echoes your PC screen to your smartphone, and also has the feedback of getting your head motion back to the PC. So Trinus VR does that, and RiftCat does that. The two big platforms right now to do this. And and you need to really should tether it with a wire, your smartphone to your PC, because the mobile connection kind of slows it down a little bit. But even if you do, the interface is not designed for virtual reality. You can't see pop-up text in a virtual reality. You can't use the menus. You don't have the mouse. You don't have the mouse, the pie menus and everything else. Those are not usable in VR. It's the frame rate is inconsistent and too slow. You want to have a steady frame rate, and you want to have a high frame rate of at least 90 frames per second, which is way better than what Open Sim can do. Because otherwise, if you move or you turn your head, the world doesn't keep up with you. Your body thinks, oh, your vision's getting blurry. You ate something bad. Let's throw up quick. Mm-hmm. And that's a major bummer.
Well, tell me, I've got a query here. Maybe nobody's thought of it, and maybe it should. But the company that does the cloud video service, where you're launching an instance of Firestorm in the cloud, and you can run it on a low-res machine. Mm-hmm. If you were on a good machine and chose that method, and had the control alt viewer available in the cloud instead of Firestorm, do you think that would clean up some of those discrepancies?
Some of them, yes, and they had originally said positive things about supporting the Control Alt Studio Viewer and supporting mobile devices. Unfortunately, the Second Life stopped their development of the official Second Life viewer. The Control Alt Studio guy said he wasn't gonna, he doesn't have time to work on this anymore, so that's not going to be, not going to stay ongoing development. So this is both of those significant issues. You do want a mobile viewer for this. You do want Control Alt Studio, and they don't, and that's doesn't look like it's going to be likely. Plus, it costs extra money. You have to pay extra for the streaming.
Well, one thing I've been intrigued about as well, down the line, of course, but maybe not too distant, and going back to the start of the show, really, is, if we have the world on the web, that by nature is going to be kind of lightweight. And, the way Google, for example, will give you a choice of watching the double picture, through your lenses, or a simple surround picture. If that could be done with the viewer on the web for World.
It's even better. The Moses web viewer is written in a platform that already supports virtual reality.
Oh, wonderful.
I talked about this last week. It's already there, and you can actually already run the viewer on a mobile device. Now, Douglas says that you don't want to run it on an older mobile device because the performance won't be there, but it does already have mobile support. So I'm waiting to hear back from him about the details of the VR, but the platform that he chose does have full support for virtual reality and other applications written on this platform. I have tried them out. You go to the web page in your smartphone, you click the virtual reality button, and it switches to side-by-side view and picks up your head motions. So that's already built into it. And so that's another reason why I'm extremely optimistic and very excited to see this work being done. I want to thank Inworld for releasing their server code that makes this possible. And I'm very grateful to the US government for funding this development.
I think I shall have to resurrect my Inworld's avatar. I do have one. I don't know what he's called. I may need your help on that. I've got so many. Back in the days when you had to choose a surname, I've got all sorts. I've got Malburn's Hunter, Malburn's Doobie somewhere. I've got weird avatars.
I'll find you.
They all begin Malburn. But imagine come the holiday season this winter. I will log into Inworld with my avatar on the web, and I will put on my 3D cardboard set.
There you go.
And actually see the world in 3D. Yes, and just think by the end of the year, if we could be doing that, just how a few short months to change everything.
Wow. That'd be very awesome.
All right. Okay, so I'm all done with my news, and we're an hour past our
Yes.
time.
I've had phone calls that I've missed and all sorts of crazy things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've had the old peep. I've had the old peep in the background, by the way. Right. Okay. Well, it is time to wrap, folks. Although we never wrap, do we, without doing a quick run around of everybody to see about any last minute thoughts. So, seeing you've been quietest, James, I'm going to start with you. Any thoughts on today's conversations, or anything else on your mind that you'd like to get in before we wrap?
Well, sure, lots of thoughts. You know, the one thing I was trying to get the Bohemian Rhapsody experience, looking at my smartphone to watch it on Google Cardboard, and it takes a while to get there. It's supported on maybe, it looks like 12 or 13 Android particular phones. And so I think this probably, leads to the fact that we really need that Daydream spec because, I'd love to watch this, but I can't. I don't have a phone that's in the select group of phones that are supported.
And of
So,
course,
yeah.
we need an update to Android that supports. We need a phone that will update Android to support Daydream.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure the developers, the people that made it said, well, we want this to work correctly. So,
Yeah.
it's like Apple development, right? We're gonna guarantee it works properly, so we're not going to release it to everyone, just the people that have the things that we consider are enough. But
Yeah, and I always wonder about the Android updates because it's a bit fragmented, but
yeah,
you almost sometimes think that some makes seem to get permission from Google to update quicker than other makes, and I keep wondering, what's what's going on there.
I write about this at my day job. There's a significant problem with the Android update supply chain right now. The way it works is that Google creates the fix. Then the manufacturer has to test the fix against their own phones, has to apply it to their software. Then the network carrier has to test the fix against their network and that phone to make sure that it works on their network. And they will only do this if they really care. So often they will not support updates for older phones because it's too much work.
Yeah.
And it takes time to do all this, so the updates can sometimes come on like a year late in some of these devices, and sometimes the updates don't come out at all.
Yeah.
And that's a huge security problem for the whole Android ecosystem because security patches are having trouble getting pushed through too, and they're trying to fix this.
Yeah, and I think the standalone Daydream is going to be, I think that's going to be really important.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I get tired of taking my phone out of my headset to use it as a phone,
Yeah, I'm inclined to be the same way. I'd rather have a device that is all in one, preferably untethered.
Oh, Daydream isn't all in one. It still has the mobile phone and the headset, but you don't have to take it out as much to interact with it.
I think James is saying there are actually going to be devices that are integrated. In other words, you won't have to put a mobile phone in. They'll come with built-in screens.
They're already out there. There's already Android-based all-in-one headsets out there. They're just not very good.
Fair enough.
So far. They're getting better.
So far.
Well, by the time I get one, they better be good.
Yeah.
I would always hold off until they're good.
Yes. Good plan.
Okay. That was it, James?
So much here, but it's so great to have Ellie here, and the news is just so thrilling. I agree with Maria. I think this is an exciting time.
Yep.
Indeed. Okay, Maria, closing thoughts?
Yes. Before I forget, I would like to say...
Show off your dress.
Oh, my God.
You're flying again.
You're standing on me.
Ellie's head. Don't look up.
I'm not looking up. Not looking up.
Stop.
Why?
Can I feel? Can I squeeze? Can I squeeze?
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, right.
I want to squeeze.
Okay. Well,
it's called Stop Flying, I think.
I don't even know where I am now.
You're off the stage there you are.
I can't squeeze.
Now you're back.
That's all I know. You're over there. I can't squeeze.
I'll tell you what, stand still, Maria, and let James find you. Oh, I see you.
All right.
Just stay put in the air.
Stay put. Yeah. All right, there you go. I am wearing a dress. I'm wearing a blouse from Pacifica Fashions that I bought on the Kylie market. And as you can see, I really like the way it looks. It doesn't quite match, fit with the skirt completely, but it still looks pretty good. I really like it. and it's exportable, so you can get it to any grid. I don't know if Inworld, do you guys have kindly market deliveries?
No.
Or are you planning to?
No.
Nope. Okay, so if you're anywhere other than Inworld, that this is something you can get. And if you are a fashion designer who wants me to feature your product on the show, let me know.
What's exactly you're wearing? I'm just your ankles.
What about my ankles? What do you got against my ankles?
Never mind. I think it must be a glitch. The skin in your shoes and the skin in your ankles don't match.
I know.
Oh, that's so common. Yeah.
So I thought you had some fancy boots that were like blobs around your ankles.
I did, but anyway, don't get me started with the open sim ankles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you would like me to check out your fashions or have any other open sim related news or VR related news, email me at maria@hypergridbusiness.com. And next month I will be doing my grid user survey. So that same surveys I run every year, asking people to vote on their grids. And every year so far, the Inworld community has been pretty much the most the loudest one with the most contributions to that survey.
Go figure.
Surprise!
Right.
So anyway, if you have a question that you would like me to add to the survey, in addition to the standard questions I ask every year, so we can do a comparison, let me know. And if it's if it's a useful question that can be added quickly to the survey without making it too complicated for people to take, I can add that in. And this is the biggest survey of open sim users that comes out every year, and it's cross grid. So if this is something you're interested in, get in touch with me, maria@hypergridbusiness.com.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, now I will let you leisurely find your way back to. Oh, you found your way back to your seat before.
She's back in squeezing distance. Yeah, that's all I know.
That was the easy bit, wasn't it? Getting back.
Yes.
Okay.
Next time, James, why don't you put a stand for me? So I can just click on that stand and stand on it to show off my clothes.
A posing stand, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, yep. We'll locate one of those. It never occurred to me that we'd become a fashion show, but 2 weeks in a row, yeah, a different dress every week.
Because I do wear a different outfit every week. I do pick them out, and I do get them on a kindly market because I have apparently $25,000 kindly credits to be used that I can't spend anywhere else because they're not redeemable. So I'm going to spend them all on clothes. Why not?
Why not, indeed?
Sounds reasonable.
I think it's a case of no change in my case and James's case for that matter. But
I'm working on it. I'll work on it.
But yeah, we allow the ladies a bit of leeway. Cough, cough.
Right. This? Oh my goodness!
What do you mean a lot?
Wow.
That was my backfiring attempt at humor. Never mind.
Just stop, Mel. You're digging a hole. Don't get any deeper now, okay?
I know. Well, people always say that to me. Right. Now, okay.
I'm not surprised by that.
Ellie, I'm going to get to you now because I want to know if you've got any closing thoughts. Actually, you've been privy to so much conversation there, including what we had before, and there may be things you haven't mentioned. So, anything else you'd like to get in or thoughts on what we've been talking about before you leave us for someone's or
no, I think we talked so much, we covered so much, and I feel really good. And I think probably the only thing that I'm sort of really debating on at this point is maybe I should write up this whole little article for Maria for Hypergrid about the whole advertising thing.
I would love that. I've been taking notes. I can email them to you about what you've said so far that you can use in an article that can run that.
Would be great. I think that'd be awesome because I really think grid owners, even if they're hobbyists, if they want to do any kind of growth or whatnot, instead of competing with each other, which is just destructive to us as a whole system, let's figure out how to work together to get everybody what we're all looking for, which is to grow and get new blood and new people involved and, working together. I think that's something that really needs to happen, and how to advertise it. I think just people don't know how to do it. I think it's probably one of the biggest issues out there. So, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it every week. I spend a day or two getting my stuff set up, but they don't have to spend that much time. And it's beneficial for everybody.
I
So-
think we should get together every grid CEO and make a machinima of everybody singing "Divided We Stand." No, united we stand, divided we fall.
I think we should just say we are the champions.
Yeah.
Let's
yeah.
go with
Okay,
Queen and we are the champions, okay?
That's probably easier. Right.
Mhm.
Or we could do a mix. Oh, but they're complicated.
We could do, you know what? Maybe we could get somebody to write a Kumbaya, we are the champions kind of mix for us and sort of do a little rap beat to it.
Indeed.
I'm going creative, sorry. This is what happens when I get creative.
Yeah, I know the feeling. You can tell we're all like that. We go off at tangents, live on TV.
Right? So no, I think that'd be great. So that's my final thought. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you here again, and I must get you back before. It's been a year, I think, since you were last here. So, or
It's been a
maybe
while.
more. So, no, don't know where the time goes. I think I have a suspicion I'm going to call you back before the end of the year because we may just be able to demo something unique on the web. Who knows?
I love demoing things. That makes me so happy. Yay!
I wonder if the day will come when we can actually film the show via the web instead of Inworld. You see, that's another extension
Yeah.
to the idea. Anyway.
Oh, stop. That makes me think. I don't want to think it's Sunday. Stop. I don't want to think no more.
Exactly. Too much thinking.
It's dangerous.
Well, it's not so much dangerous. It just creates more thinking, and
Right?
It doesn't
Exactly.
stop.
Let's
It
stop.
doesn't
Just stop.
Okay, everyone, it is Sunday. It's the same day we do it every week, but we relax. I know everybody's watching this midweek when they're not bothered. Right. Okay, so I'm going to call it a wrap. I'd like to thank everybody who's been here this week. Firstly, our special guest, Elenia Llewellyn, but we'll call her Ellie. Thank you very much, Ellie, for being here.
It was so my pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, as always, to James Outloud for multi-camera work and news on the devs and all his comments. Thank you, James.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. I enjoy this and learn something every week.
And thank you, of course, to my regular co-host, Maria Koloff from Hypergrid Business.
Well, thanks for having me, Mel. It's always a pleasure.
You can catch up with us during the week through our various individual personalities. You can follow Maria at twitter.com/Maria Koloff, and you can get the posts from Hypergrid Business by following twitter.com/Hypergrid Business. You can follow my links and stuff daily at twitter.com/Malburns. And you can also follow twitter.com/Metaworld News for some extra things I come across that are hypergrid and destination sort of related. And, before I forget, a site for people to check out for Inworld. So I guess it's Inworld. What's your website? I can't ask you for a hypergrid jump. So what's your website?
It's Inworld with a Z.
Yeah.
.com.
That's easy. Inworlds with a Z.com. So you can check out more about Inworlds from there. Plus, we're all in Hollywood Parcel, Abyssal Raider, active on Facebook, especially Google Plus when it comes to Open Sim, and all over the place. So just keep in touch. And comments to this show are welcome, so long as they don't start negative chains. There you go. Right. So thank you to you all once again. And I'm just going to sign out as always. Wish you all a very good morning, or a very good afternoon, or a very good evening, and possibly even a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. We will be back here same time, same place next week. Bye for now.